Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Horror with Nadia. I am so glad for you guys to be here with me today. Today, I have a great panel. We're going to be talking about the new reboot or reimagination of Salem's Lot. But before we get into that, I want to thank you all for getting me to 500 subs. I don't know what new goal I will be setting. I'll think about it. But if you could please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. All your help and appreciation counts. So another thing I wanted to point out, which is linked in the chat, is I am in the runnings for the Face of Horror. It is a free vote. If you could go, please, and just vote for me. It's free once every 24 hours. You can read what I'll win and what I'll do with it at below. If you do plan on buying votes, it does go to a great charity called the Starlight Charity Children's Foundation. You can read up on that on the website as well. So that being said, I'm going to bring in my lovely panel. We have Goodwin, Enzo, Sammy, and Ego. Hi, guys. How's it going?
What's going on? Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you guys for joining me. I'm very excited to talk about this awful movie. Spoilers. We're going to give initial thoughts on it first, and then we'll get into spoilers. But I do want to say quickly hi to the chat. Rick, it's always great to have you. I always see your comments. Thank you so much for your support. Jacob, Gord, and I hear, is somebody watching the stream? I hear I hear myself.
No, I don't hear it.
Okay. Maybe it's me. Okay. By the way, I did see Near Dark. That's pretty good. Sassy, Boosh. Thank you guys for stopping in. I think Bobby, as always. All right. Okay. Salem's Lot, 2024. What do y'all think? Start with you, Goodwin. Initial thoughts.
So I as I watched this, I had like two parallel tracks of anger that just kept getting more and more. One was, what the hell is going on with this script? And then the other thing was I saw how much work everybody else in the movie put in. I mean, the set design, the everything art direction wise, the costumes, all of the props, the car wrangling, and whoever was doing continuity and actually checking to make sure that everything was period correct. They were spot on, right? So you knew that you had a really good crew that was being utterly wasted by a terrible director / screenwriter.
Which is surprisingly, because I looked at his IMDb and he's got a couple really good horror movies on there for like modern day horror standards. And I also think you probably know continuity for this because you've lived many centuries.
Yes.
Oh.
I remember when Barlow was just a child.
Yes. and so what did you initially think?
I was very excited about this. I thought Salem's Lot needed to get a remake, especially because the whole thing's a metaphor for small towns dying across America. And I thought it's more poignant than ever. And also, I was very excited to see Mr. Barlow. He's one of my favorite vampires, at least on screen. I know in the book he's supposed to be more like the TNT Rutger Hauer version. But I was excited with the lighting at first. I was excited with some of the cinematography. I was excited by the monstrous Mr. Barlow. And yeah, I mean, it's funny because the original miniseries is 3 hours long and it's very slow. It's like the pacing's awful. This one's an hour shorter and it's so rushed. And it's like you're not getting any of that resonance emotionally. And yeah, I was just very disappointed by the movie. It's got some cool glowing crosses and glowing eye effects, but that's pretty much all it's got going for it. And the most turquoise night I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I complain about HBO not knowing how to light their nights, and then I come to this and I'm like, oh, maybe we're just supposed to be watching things in the darkness because this blue hazy turquoise night is just awful. It took me out of it quite a few times.
Jerusalem's Lot has a chemical plant nearby that's firing off in the middle of the night, and that's what's going on. I don't know.
The Aurora Borealis has really flared up there recently.
Yeah, Green Knight. I'd never seen it before, and I admired, some of the risks. I mean, a lot of the changes they did, they sounded good on paper, I think, and they just kind of dropped the ball in execution, I think.
I think it was supposedly written from the perspective of Mark. That's what I kind of picked up on it, and that probably so many rewrites, it just got mumbled together.
It definitely has production interference vibes, especially with the ending.
Yes. Yeah. Sammy, what about you? I know you, Sammy. Go for it. 3 hours later. Let's go.
My what's the phrase? My disappointment is immeasurable.
Yes.
I agree. I thought Salem's Lot was primed up for a remake. Now that I'm looking at it in hindsight, it probably should have been a series or a mini series, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's too much to cover. You have to, as a huge fan of the book, you have to care about the people in this small town and understand kind of like their daily schedules and things like that. Not that it's necessarily, they didn't have to do that in the, the 79 version, but, definitely something that you see in the book is just like the operation of this town. And it's a lurching horror. A lot of people are afraid to, either admit what's going on, or they're just too jaded to see what's going on, or their logic simply won't let them know what's going on. And you get none of that. These people are on board that there's vampires immediately. It drove me nuts. And that was supposed to be like a huge part of, the story where, it's your eyes, you can't believe your eyes, you're just terrified. And none of that was conveyed here. I didn't mind some of the changes that they made that we'll get into in the spoiler territory, but yeah, a lot of it felt short. But I did love the glowing crosses. I thought that was good, but I think they missed the mark on this completely. I thought they could have went with a more suave Barlow. I was hoping for that. Who's the striker, I thought was the worst casting and the worst acting in the entire film.
Oh, Mr.
So.
Boomerang? Isn't that who it is?
I think it is.
One thing, so the pacing is awful. You don't get the established Jerusalem's Lot, and then the slow degradation as Barlow's evil spreads out and as people become scared, and so they, where you would at the beginning you would see plenty of people walking on the sidewalks and going to shops, that as the story progresses there's more and more people holding up in their homes, right? That they kind of get this siege mentality. None of that happens here. But it's like half the town is gone to begin with, and then within like a week it's down to just a few people, and it was terrible. And then yes, Striker, oh my god, the as soon as I saw him, and I was like, oh, this was a mistake. And it just kept getting worse because his accent would come and go. It was bad. Oh my god.
Yeah. I also thought, and I'll let you go, Ego, next, but I also thought if they're going to go straight to a streaming service, they could have split this into like a 3-part mini series similar to the original, and kind of flush it out more, even if they were going with a different angle of it, because some of the things just didn't make sense in the storyline. But Ego, what did you think of it?
I had 2 prevailing thoughts. The first one is I had to look up who the writer was, because I couldn't believe this when I saw it was Gaby Doberman. I was like, he must have been cloned, because I refuse to believe the guy that made Annabelle Creation, The Nun, and co-wrote It would write this. So I was like, the only response is he had to have been cloned, because I refuse to believe that the writing could have been that poor. The second thing is, and I got to preface this by saying, I'm not sure if all you guys remember when Eminem first came out, but when you saw him, you were like, how did you get here? Yeah. It's not like we just, we see a Vanilla Ice or, or a Snow once in a blue moon, but an Eminem, how did you get here? He's like, oh, well, I was with proof, and then Dr. Dre found me, and now I'm on Interscope, and now I'm making an album. Cool, that's how you're doing that when you don't look like you do that. So when I saw Mark, I had questions. I had to consult with the rest of the Africanus Americanus to ask like how he's so obsessed with this and black, because we typically don't do it, and there was no like segue. Like, hey, I'm into weird stuff because I understand creatures that haunt people because these bullies always haunt me. Or, I'm always running from my fears, so I want to be less afraid. So I start getting to vampires and mummies and stuff. Otherwise, I'm just like, Mark's a sociopath. And that's
he's a cold-blooded killer. Yeah.
I was like, he's a sociopath.
He kills two humans and a vampires and doesn't even react to it.
Right. He's like, I had to. I'm like, did you, Mark? Because
I mean, he had a compulsion.
Are you okay, Mark?
Yeah, he had to.
No,
I just.
It was like, really? Because it looks like you're fine, Mark.
Right.
You're scaring everybody, Mark.
He has emotion. He has emotion once.
Let's let Ego finish. Let Ego finish. Go ahead.
No, that was the thing. It's just, when you do race swaps, you do race swaps, and it's the opposite of what you think, because we usually don't do that kind of thing. You have to explain how you got here.
Yeah.
And I was missing that. I honestly thought, I don't like doing the whole every two black characters you see are related, but I thought that I guess it's the nurse or mortician.
The doctor.
I thought the doctor. I thought that was his mom, because it would have made sense.
Right up until you met his parents.
I did for a second too.
I said, do they both work in a factory? Because where is he being supervised? That was, just, I had general questions, and those are the two that stuck in my mind and made it a little bit hard to enjoy, because I wanted to know how this sociopath is just running loose like this, killing vampires that he may not be sure are actually vampires just yet. That's all.
Have you ever seen the original?
I didn't, but that's why I had to look up who Mark originally was cast as. And when I was like, he's white, I'm like, okay, I got it. Because originally I didn't think that he was a real character. I thought he was supposed to be like, oh, they wrote him in to be the audience's reaction to what's happening. And maybe he is in the book. I didn't know, but I didn't think he was a real character. So when I looked it up and saw that he was white, I'm like, then this race swap, you have to explain it to me, because I am very confused.
Well, the doctor was the most garish. The doctor was like a white man.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I had more problem with the
who's also very skeptical.
Mark.
Yes, he was the most skeptic one.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah, because in this one he's 11 3/4. He says.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
he's supposed to be like 15.
15?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want post puberty a little bit,
Yeah, it would make more sense with his actions if he was more of a teenager, like a little bit, maybe around 15, 16. But in the original, to me, Mark has always been just a kid that's interested in horror movies and like horror effects. That's what it came off to me in the original. And that's why he has these loves of like vampires and werewolves and stuff like that. And he's building little like props and stuff. So it made sense, but they didn't allow that to kind of flourish here. You just think this kid just likes to collect creepy things.
I mean, to be fair, nobody flourishes in this.
That's
there's
true.
no real character building at all.
Okay. All right.
I mean, when it gets... sorry.
Go ahead, Sammy.
I'm saying they do such, and I agree with Ego on this. Like, they do such a poor job of establishing him that like you don't know where he comes from or like why he does certain things. He comes across as sociopathic, and like his big scene with his parents. That's the first time that you see them. So
and
like,
the last time you see them,
there's no gravity to it because you don't care. It's very poorly done. Definitely earned that New Line Cinema insignia.
I was so sad to see this was New Line Cinema afterwards.
Me too.
I really thought, okay, New Line Cinema, we're about to get I didn't expect it to be better, but I expected it to be on par for modern audiences, right? Like modern updates to the makeup, the scares. Because to me, the 1979 still scares me to this day, but I saw it very young. Where I think if I had seen it now as an adult, it's a good movie, but it does drag. It's very slow. It does drag out, and it's not the same level of horror and scare as is expected in today's genre.
I mean, to be fair, the at least the 79 one delays the reveal of Barlow, so that there's a real shock. I saw Barlow within 5 minutes of this thing.
Yeah.
Oh
and,
yeah.
and that was a horrible design for him.
Oh, I
Yeah,
agree.
I do prefer the monstrous master vampire, but because we're getting Nosferatu, and I wouldn't have mind the posh, refined vampire he's supposed to be, because they didn't really do it right with Rutger Hauer in the TNT miniseries. So I mean, we technically haven't gotten a screen accurate Barlow yet. So I wouldn't have minded a more refined gentleman like he's supposed to be. But me personally, I just love the big monster vampires. That's my favorite.
He reminds me more of 30 Days of Nights mixed with
Yeah.
the strain in his
Yeah.
designs.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like more to me. Not more Nosferatu, just like, and very, I don't know if it was practical effects, but very CGI look to him with his
Totally.
face.
Yeah,
He's
I was
also
disappointed once you get to see him pretty well.
I don't the actor that they chose to do Barlow, he's too heavy in the face.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
His eyes are too close together as well.
Yeah.
And his cheekbones are like, but it's fine if you have like prominent cheekbones, if you have like a really sallow face, because then you kind of have that cadaverous look that you would want with a vampire. This guy looks like he just got done from Golden Corral, the all-you-can-eat buffet, and
He's
God.
he's eating the whole town.
I
Yeah,
had a
but
problem
his-
with all the
He's
vampires
feasting.
in this.
He is feasting.
Mhm.
By the way,
No.
do you see what he looks like in real life?
No.
I
I did like the
Alexander Ward.
big scalp veins when he was drinking that get all enlarged and stuff. But I mean, like I said, everything that you do like is kind of just one-off cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, see, his face is too broad. It's he's kind of got that Slavic style of face where it's flattened out, and you need something that's more angular and sallow.
Emaciated.
Well, originally the guy who played the sheriff, Parsons Gillespie, on IMDb forever they had him as Barlow, and and
he does have that kind of angular rat face.
He does, and I was wondering if they were initially going to go in that direction. I had a problem with all the vampires in this, and I'm glad that we're returning to violent vampires, and they're not sparkly and in love and all that stuff. That's great and all, but like if you're gonna have them be dumb and lurching, well, then when they get their hands on you, you shouldn't be able to fight them off. But if you're gonna have them be quick and stuff like that, well, then like they couldn't pick what they wanted, because they seemed to be able to kind of think, and they also, what I mean, it wasn't. It's like there's archetypes of these different type of vampires that we've seen over and over and over again, and like they kept cherry picking to a point where it was so inconsistent. It was like, okay, can they talk, or are they going to go it's like, which one are we getting here? And also like you'll see them jumping around, crawling around, doing incredible feats of strength, yet when they get their hands on you, like you can take like 4 of them on at one time. It's what I mean?
It's whatever the plot needs it to be is what their strength is.
I was very upset with that.
They need to be invited in your house, even your tree house. Otherwise they're useless.
I had questions about that too, because I was like, I'm not a horror movie buff to this extent, but it's like, if you invite me in, but then you're going to use your powers of suggestion to make me open the door for you, how is this supposed to work? Like, they kept making rules and then breaking them within the same breath, and that's why I was confused. It was like, hey,
that is in the book.
That is,
really?
Well, like where they glam you into doing it, and that's I'm fine with that.
What?
But I mean, even the thing where he revokes the invitation is in the book. But
I like that.
I get the revocation. It's just I don't get what the point is. I mean, I could if you could do. Okay, I'm sorry.
The revoking the invitation was also in the Rob Lowe version.
It's been in all of them.
Yeah,
I think
Ego's the point he's making is the idea is that you voluntarily invite them in, right? That it's your choice to let them in, and then they can come in. I can just hypnotize you. Well, then what the hell are we worried about here? I mean, also, where the hell are Danny's nails?
Yeah.
Danny was just knocking on the window instead of scratching, right? From the,
they ruined the "look at me" scene that didn't exist in this.
Oh my God!
The kitchen scene, I think the 1979's is way more terrifying.
I was so excited to see that scene get remade, because it's like, you see what they're going for. Like, they're sitting at the table and the lights go out and the phone rings and the windows explode. And then there's just like a shadow on the ground and it emerges and it's Mr. Barlow. And you're like, dude, that's awesome. I want to see that done.
Yeah, when he goes
correctly.
to the front door, I was like, where are you going? No, that's
And
not.
then like,
no,
and then
stay
bam,
there.
I'm just behind the mom all of a sudden. Bam. Like just like out of nowhere. There's no build up to the terror, you know, except the cross starts glowing like
this is, I mean,
like night lights.
And and that again is the it's a combination because again the director was also the screenwriter, and he sucked at both.
He did.
You could tell the cinematographer was doing great work. I mean, there are scenes, especially like in the basement with the light, the when Barlow pops up and pops the bulb and then gets the guy right. That is brilliant. Really good use of shadow and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Except that, like at the very beginning of the movie, when the two delivery drivers are pulling up to do that, I don't know what the hell that shot was supposed to be.
Confusing mirror shot.
Right. It's like it's supposed to be looking through the side mirror or something, except that it just looks like CGI overlay of the basement door, and then you're looking at and the first thing you think is like, why is the driver on the wrong side of the vehicle? Right? Did we suddenly end up in England? What the hell is going on? And then you switch back to when he backs up and he comes out the correct way, and it was like, I don't know what's going on. And there are a few shots that looks like the director in post decided to play with color grading or something, and because there were times it looked like, are there two cinematographers on this thing? No, there's only one.
When we first meet the girlfriend, I thought she looked kind of computer animated. Was that me?
Yes.
Or
No, the lighting on it.
A little bit.
The lighting and the palette choice for this movie is atrocious. It takes me out. I hate when. Anyway, let's get it. So, I like the title card. I'm a sucker for good title cards. I thought this was pretty cool.
Yeah,
cool
this was good.
Book. Yeah, and I was like, okay, maybe you guys were all full of shit in the chat, and that this is going to be actually pretty good. And then I see this awful. I hate this yellow filter. They use this in the last Indiana Jones too quite a bit, and if you're gonna light something to look like it's natural sunlight, just use natural sunlight.
That's not what they're doing. They're lighting this to be like, look, we're in oldie timey sepia tone or whatever. It was like, look, reality wasn't
70s.
Actually sepia tone, right?
We're in the 70s. This is not supposed. Even if they wanted to do like maybe 1800s or something like that, this is the 70s. I don't like this. It just threw me off, especially since this does not match any of the other daytime scenes on the color grading, and also doesn't flow well into the night scenes.
That's what I was saying. It looks like there are plenty of shots where it looks like there's two cinematographers at work, and there isn't. And so it's clear that this was done like in post with color correction for this, and it had to have been the director.
Yep.
Probably.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
and
also
sometimes
just a really dumb place to start the story.
Yes. Actually, no, because if they were trying to condense down the 3 hours of the original and even the miniseries and the book, this is not a terrible place to start. But it doesn't like it. The drivers show up and then it's never. This is the only. Sorry, I have Benadryl in me because of the stupid side effect. What's his face? Straker. This is the only really dialogue kind of a scene with him, other than when he ties up a mark at the end and he shows up, but he doesn't really get much dialogue in this entire movie.
Yeah, he does.
No, he's the weakest character in the entire.
Sorry.
That's fair.
Fumbled over my words there.
Well, and it's doubly offensive because of the James Mason portrayal that you got in the 79, where he is properly menacing, just by the way he talks, right? And
he's got the Torgo thing, like you must consult the master. The master will never let you live.
And they kill him off in such a stupid way too. Sorry, go ahead, Ego.
I was just wondering. Like, first of all, I thought this was a Confederate soldier in he time traveled just by the way they had the shot.
Yeah,
I really thought, I was like, this is weird. But is he supposed to sound that weird, like creepy, like not creepy, but like a creep?
Yes, he's supposed to. He's supposed to sound. So if you've ever read Dracula, Dracula in the book, he has a weird cadence to his voice, and he doesn't have like a discernible accent. He speaks English well, but you can't really, he doesn't actually talk like, like what, he has, that he's from somewhere else, but so he's supposed to sound odd. He's supposed to sound like aristocratic, but he's not supposed to sound like he's necessarily European.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I was just trying to figure that out because
unfortunately, this guy, he goes between I'm from Maine, I'm from England, and I'm a redneck, and it just he can't decide which one.
Okay.
He's supposed to be an extension of Barlow, so that's why
he's a familiar.
Supposed to be, more menacing. He's supposed to be creepy. He does Barlow's bidding, so he is supposed to be basically bad guy number 2. And I don't feel like he has a big presence in this movie whatsoever. He's not intimidating. I really didn't care for any of the scenes he was in. And then they kill him off, where in that kitchen scene in the original is intimidating because he shows up first, and then Barlow does. Instead, they kill him off.
What's interesting is the way he gets killed off is similar to the Rob Lowe version, which is probably the way it's done in the book, I'm guessing.
It is.
The 70s version was great when he's basically like the mouth for Mr. Barlow, because Mr. Barlow doesn't speak in the movie.
Yeah.
When you have the aristocratic Barlow, that's kind of not necessary. But
and when you have a Barlow who can speak, that's why I was also really disappointed in the kitchen scene, because he does speak, and that's one of the biggest problems that I've had in the movie, where there's a lot of like key lines where I was like, okay, I'm gonna get to hear this in live action, and they either didn't do it, flipped it on its head completely, or dumbed it down so badly that it felt so contrived that you were just like, I would have preferred you to say nothing at all. But and so in the kitchen scene, especially when he goes, oh, I guess he's not going to speak, but also Stryker's not here, and then he opens his mouth and then he says a line, and it's like, oh well, you're taking the whole gravity out of this entire interaction. It was, I have to
nothing that felt heavy in this movie. Nothing weighed down. It didn't feel like there were actual consequences, nor were there actual what's the word I'm looking for? Like fuck, I can't even think. Never mind.
Well, I think this felt like a bad video game with fetch quests.
Yes.
Right. Everything was just fetch. I talked to NPC and I said, there are vampires, and they said, of course there are. What the hell? I mean, there's no discussion. No, it's fine. And can you go get my letter opener? Sure. And then I go off and do a thing, right? There's no emotional weight to it. And again, the pacing, everything. There's no, the characters seem like, for the most part, talk at each other. And they don't even believe the lines that they're saying sometimes. And it's because it's so awkwardly written.
Yeah.
Things that are really rushed are the, everyone getting on board with the vampires. That is insanely rushed. And then also the just like how fast the town becomes desolated and overrun with vampires like that. I don't know if there is a passage of time that we're not being privy to, or if it literally all just happens in the span of like 3 days or whatever. But it's just very it's very disjointed.
They only time jump once in this movie. By time jump,
during the
search. The 1 week later search, and that's it. That's the only time they insert it. And the dialogue is just so clumsy throughout this entire movie.
Yeah.
And also,
where it gets around here that you got a crush on the old girl over there, and he's got a thing for her.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I do think that this was originally supposed to be written through Mark's eyes, but because they kept doing obvious rewrites and everything, there's no clear protagonist. And like a lot of these roles, like, so, the teacher is kind of like the Van Helsing role. Like they flip that on its head. They, you know what I mean? They don't give him a chance to flourish and discover this knowledge because Mark's already got this knowledge. Ben Mears is obviously in the book the protagonist. He's the book in every other adaptation of this. He's kind of a side character in this. Him and Susan, which is the love story in the show, that gets thrown to the side. And you get all this stuff for Mark, but then they don't flesh him out either. So you're left going like, who's in charge here? Who's running the show? You know,
Right.
like there's no clear
The plot
leader.
is in charge.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Right.
because this writer wrote on it, I think it's because this has been in production hell for a long time,
Yes, it has.
and post production. So they probably were saying, well, it one was such a success from the point of view of children going up against monsters. Let's do that same thing here. We'll flush out Mark a little bit more. And again, I think it just got fumbled through probably many rewrites, many editing, the studio stepping in, because I think that would be a really refreshing new take if you want to take a side character like Susan or Mark and just tell it from their point of view and just flush it out and get the terror there. But it felt like we're going to tell a little bit of Ben, a little bit of Mark. Susan's kind of put on the side burner, and that's it. We're just going to fumble it all together. And at the end, it did not make sense, the ending, to me whatsoever.
Mark-
Oh,
I would
Mark,
argue
the only
Susan
thing
was the most fleshed out character in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You understood. You had that whole thing with her mother. You had that whole thing with Ben. You understood that she was kind of like a girl who wants to get out of the town and doesn't necessarily want to be confined by her mother's wishes. That was the only fully realized character that we got in the whole movie, and she's maybe in this movie for 15 minutes.
And the problem is they end up making her silly anyway.
Mhm.
Right? You have the, oh, by the way, I'll be at the drive-in. It's like, what the hell are you doing? And then the fumbling around with the cross,
Goodwin,
which you
that's
can't
how
even
girls-
tape things.
I didn't mind that.
That's
whatever.
how girls let boys know we're interested in you. And
No, that's
you know,
fine. They'll say it. They'll be a little bit. What they don't do is turn. Hello, I will be at the drive-in. What did you say, Hans? Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just
your
silly.
only ticket out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
then
like
you
with
just
Mark,
suck his dick.
with Mark, the only thing extra we got with fleshing him out was seeing that he had an encounter with a bully and that he actually hangs out with these two, little kids who become vampires early on.
Yeah,
but other than that, everything else is cut out. Like we don't see anything about really Mark other than that. And I don't know,
he's only scared once, really. And it's when Danny shows up at first, and I think that's more he's startled than anything else, right? And then the treehouse is, no, I'll get up here and just stab some more people and then close the door and I'll wait and I'm fine. He's a robot through most of the things. Yeah, he absolutely looks like a sociopath or a psychopath.
Well, he should be a very impressive young man. Like, you know what I mean? He's a very put together kid, but it's not conveyed here at all. Where, like that whole scene with the bully in the book, like he outsmarts the guy. You see that he's quick on his feet. You see that he's good at improvising. Like that tells you a lot about those things. It just looks like, and even the teacher had to step in. I love that character. I keep forgetting his name, but he goes, "Hey, when someone says uncle, like you stop. Like that's not something that Mark would do." Mark's like an honorable kid. Like, so that whole thing where he's like, Danny, I made you a promise. That feels like Mark. That whole thing where he's like, I'm going to break his arm. Like, no, that doesn't feel like the character's all wishy-washy. It's all over the place.
Yeah. Mark has no emotional connection to anybody.
No,
me either.
Ego, what were you going to say? I saw you were.
No, I saw it when I knew that they were going to probably use Mark as a figurative and literal plot armor. When he got hit in the face, his glasses came off and the glasses were still intact. I mean, unless he's wearing industrial grade glasses, like I wear those. And if that happens, like it's going to be broken. So they'd have to be taped up. Like if you look at him when he gets back up, there's no scar on his face. There's no scratches at all. Like he literally goes through the entire...
He was built in the 70s. Those things were made to last.
I mean, is he a Ford? Good Lord. I mean, I'm looking at the entire movie. It was like, okay, so the main character, he scratched up, she got stabbed, he's bleeding. Mark is just pristine.
Mark is just like standing around. Vampire jumps on him and impales itself. Okay, all right, good work, Danny.
I just, he scared me because I was just like, he hasn't seemed scared, concerned, angry, sad. The typical emotions you want to have at 11 to let us know you were emotionally on a spectrum.
No, he just want to kill.
No, he just wanted to go after vampires. I don't know about you, Eagle, but when I was 11, I really wanted to go hunt vampires too.
Well, I mean, so the thing is, when I was 11, we were shown videos about what happens when we go trick-or-treating, and we found out the total witches put heroin in your apples and razor blades in your Tootsie Rolls.
Nice.
So, like, I kind of, like, it stopped me from doing trick-or-treating until I was, like, 21. So I'm just, there are things you want to have at 11 to let you know you're on the emotional barrier. It's right there, and he wasn't there at all, which was scary to me.
I was doing something much different at 11, and what I did was a lot of it, but we'll just leave it at that.
All right, I digress. One thing I want to point out about this remake is that the Marston house takes a full back seat, which is a real
Totally
disappointment. Because in the book and both remakes of it, the 70s and the Rob Lowe, the Marston house plays almost a character itself.
Yes,
It's supposed to. Town.
It was supposed to terrify Ben Mears as a child, and he was fascinated by this thing. Right? It's the big spooky house that all the kids are afraid of. You know, growing up, oh, I dare you to go in there. The hell I will. And here you go. And here it's just big house that you see occasionally.
No, it is supposed to subvert your expectations where, yes, it's the big scary house that looms over the town. Mostly in any other like coming of age story, you'd be like, eventually the character would realize it's just a house. Little do we know, it's actually the catalyst that let this evil infiltrate the town in the first place.
Right.
The house itself is evil. So when you get in, you're supposed to go, oh, I guess, it's just a scary old house. There's nothing about it. It was like, no, you get in and you go, oh, shit is off the rails here. And then another thing I didn't like about the house, I didn't know that Hubie Marston really liked to collect so many glass fucking bottles that you can't see what's going on.
I had questions. I didn't know what that was about either. I didn't want to ask, but I was like, what's happening?
He was looking for that 10-cent deposit. That's how they financed the house, is they collected bottles and then turned them in for recycling.
Well, the house in the original, it uses its like shadows, the silence of it. There are very prominent scenes in it. The ending takes place in it. Like it is literally a character itself, both in the book and the other two miniseries. But here it's just kind of a back piece, just thrown in the background. We get a couple scenes and that's it. That's why I thought the drive-in scene was so stupid.
Oh yeah. Also how disgusting the interior of the house was in the two other miniseries. It's awful, man.
And this
one's
just
like
full of
dead animals. Yeah. And I think, maybe they were trying to say something with this new ending instead of the death of, because it's a metaphor, like I said, for the death of small town America. I think this new one is maybe trying to say something about the death of movie theaters, the death of.
No. This one very. I mean, it is on the nose. They explicitly say that this is about the death of the small town and eventually, the U.S. or whatever. And then the cop says that, and then he's like, "I'm gonna leave," and it was like, dude, you just said this will spread and be the death of the U.S. Where the hell are you driving?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and actually, he's the only one who did his homework. He's the only one who nailed the main accent, or the sheriff. I mean, he's the only one who nailed the main accent. The sheriff does pick up and go
William
in
Sadler.
the book, and he, if they would have fleshed him out a little bit better too, because like he basically comes up and goes, hey, I don't want to do my job, and then you see it another time. He goes, hey, I don't want to do my job. And then the doctor is shocked when he's leaving and doesn't want to do his job. So like you need to show a couple other moments of him actually being a good sheriff, like there is in the book, where like when people get attacked or he's the one out leading the search, they don't show any of that. So it was like, I don't know why anyone's surprised when he said he doesn't want to do his job, and then he picks up and leaves. So
Sammy,
he starts out going, I'm 2 weeks from retirement, right? And that's essentially it. Yeah.
But what about the ending of him where he gets spoilers, he gets his dead body's thrown through a window, and then the doctor just kind of reacts by saying some kind of one-liner, without even
I was on my way out of town. He pulled me back in, and I get thrown through a
man. He was only 2 days from retirement. Damn, he was too old for this shit.
What do we think of Lewis Pullman's portrayal of Ben?
I like this guy. I think one of the problems that you have with evaluating the actors is the shit lines that they are stuck with, and the problem with the dialogue, right? And so, and also that he's essentially made totally passive in this movie, much like everybody else, because the plot is the main character that does all the action, right? And so we don't really get into his sense of dread and fear of the Marston house at all. and how it affected him as a child or anything. Oh, they talk about his parents getting killed, and then he was gone, and it was like because I think he was 9 when he left, right? And
Yep.
it's like he didn't even live there.
Yeah.
From his conversations and kind of how he reacted, other than, oh yes, they told me I lived here, and that's about it.
And in the 79 version of it, he has a fear of the Marston house. Like,
Right.
there are scenes where he just can't even force him. He has to like be brought back to force himself in to go help Susan, to go help Mark. And there's no interaction here. He's just kind of given dead weight, and he's just flowing around. We just have Ben in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just a passive
simple
character.
dialogue. When he's passing through, he lived there. So, like in the books and other adaptations, and they do this well in It, when the adults come back to Derry, is they ask questions like, oh, is such and such still in the library? That's how you get the point that the town is a functioning town, and it's been there and been functioning since he's left, and
Right.
it hasn't changed. So there's like this nostalgia bait for him, but the nostalgia keeps bringing back that fear of that big looming house on the hill. That you don't get any of that. You could honestly say that Ben Mears was just driving through to try to get back to New York City, and it would have made no difference.
Yeah, or again, it was his extended family that told him he was from there, but he wasn't actually from there because he didn't know anybody that he apparently knew
nobody
were
knows
dead
him.
and gone. Right? Yeah. It's
Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It's just there were two things that I thought were missing here. One was like the person that never left. Hey, that's that old. Like the person's extra old, but has never left, remembers people, or say you look familiar. The second thing they try to do with like the town gossip lady, but there's never an isolated gossip. There's always like a group of gossips. I don't know what you're supposed to call them. Like
the grapevine, right?
Yeah. Where's the grape? I'm like, where's the grapevine, and where's the person that would actually remember him? Like, if you're just,
which is also prevalent in the book. Mabel Wirtz is a terrible gossip, and she screws a lot of things up. She brings a lot of things into play, so much so that Ben actually gets assaulted because she can't keep her mouth shut. And that's another thing that was a huge problem with this, where it's like someone read the book and they want to add these things. So it's like when Ben gets to the boarding house, they establish and they go, oh, this is broken. Weasel will fix it. They don't introduce you to Weasel.
Like,
they don't,
they never showed up.
They have all these things that you would know if you would have read the book, but it pays off. It does. Well, I'm sorry.
What would have been the point to say if it's broken if you're not going to use Weasel?
You're like, who is Weasel and why is he gonna fix his? You have no idea that the house is in disrepair. They don't spend enough time anywhere for you to understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. What makes Stephen King work?
It's the drive-through.
Yeah, what makes Stephen King so great is when you get to meet these characters. They feel real. They're fleshed out. They have real problems and real issues, and then bam, a monster shows up. That's like Cujo and Green Mile are great examples of that. But
right, it's like good sci-fi, right? Where you have real humans and a situation has changed and they react to it like actual humans who have a history and all that. This thing felt like it was written by someone who has never lived in a small town.
Yeah, because normally his stuff, small towns have, again, their own character. These things are supposed to be flushed out because it's the setting that it's just normal people being put into these settings, and then you get like Enzo was saying, a monster kind of thrown into it. But you at least have like you're invested into it.
There's a social dynamic, and the thing about small towns in particular is they have a peculiar kind of life, right? Everybody, again, if you fart in your house, everybody in town knows about it by the next morning, right? It's just that's how it goes, right? Everybody knows your business. They know when strangers are in town. You'll hear that, hey, did you see that? So and so's having a visitor or whatever, and it's just all over. None of this happens here because everybody is just they're like bad game NPCs that only trigger when the main characters show up.
Yeah, people should be peeking out the window when Ben walks by, going like, "Who the hell is that?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because it's different.
Those are out-of-state plates. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
It adds layers to the story too, because you get the history of the town, similar to in It, where if you read the book, you get the history of Derry, where this evil was affected. So similar here with Salem's Lot, and it plays into the other books that kind of cross-reference it too. But nothing is mentioned here. The Marston town is just what happens there is just shown in a newspaper flyer, and that's it. You don't actually get to understand the murder suicide that happens in the actual house that leads to this town being a place where Barlow chooses and why and stuff. You just
Right.
kind of just get a flash of it,
Right
which
now,
just sucks.
right now, I'm kind of thinking that I'm kind of thinking like, you know, I was excited when this was going to be set in the 70s because the Rob Lowe one versions is pretty bad because it's contemporary. But I'm thinking like you probably could have gotten away logistically with these plot, like the rushing of the plot, if it took place in present day with the advent of cell phones and the internet.
Yep.
Because there is less of a small town community vibe in the small town I'm living in because of that. But
yeah,
still,
you compress your communication times, right? Because in this case, you know, it's if you're there to pick up from the landline, otherwise somebody has to walk over there and all that. Whereas cell phones delete that. But one thing is so when he was driving into town, there was a key moment that I knew, oh shit, this is going to be a problem, right? And the, you know, the delivery at the Marston house. Okay, that was what the hell is that? Okay, but somebody's being cute. But then it's when he's driving into town, and I'm eyeballing and things, whatever. And there's an Easter egg in the mechanic shop, right? Christine is in there getting worked on, right?
Yep.
But you just see the front of it, and it was like, oh, cute. And then he decides to shoot from the side of Christine as the car goes by. And I was like, dude, now it's stopped being an Easter egg. If you don't understand how to do Easter eggs, I have some real concerns about how you're going to direct this. And boy, was that correct, because everything else is as on the nose or incompetent as that.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, it's when he's driving it, because I was eyeballing, because again, I was checking like, what's the
like
date
right
of this?
before
What's
that.
the date of this?
Right before this.
Yeah, a little bit. No, go back a few 10 seconds, skips or thing. Like he drives it, or is that
No, it's when he comes in. It's downtown.
Yeah.
Somewhere over here.
It's
somewhere
on
around
the
this
left.
section. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, this is what the hell are you doing? Because you see it from the front when he's driving. It was like, oh, cute. All right, I see you. And then this, and I was like, you incompetent ass.
This is literally
see it again a first time, too.
Easter egg camera, Easter egg POV. This is a POV from the Easter egg. You know?
Yeah.
No, this is Christine watching the town. You see it a third time too, and then,
Yes.
then
The guy underneath it.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god.
I
But
haven't
at that
read
point, I
15
already
in
knew
such a
what a
long
shitstorm we were
time.
in.
What town does it have any overlap? I don't think so.
No, it
What?
doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Because I know like Needful Things and stuff have overlap with Drew's.
No, Christine's in California.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm like, there's no way Christine. It's been a long time since I've read the book and seen the movie.
You know what?
Like, there's no
they
way.
they have this car in like so many Stephen King adaptations, but yes,
Oh,
you're only
okay.
supposed to see it in passing or like this. You don't need to see it prominently 3 times
Right.
when you haven't given us the town or all this other stuff. I mean, I at least I guess another one of the most refined characters is that we'll see is Susan's boss, Mr. Crockett, because he wasn't in the movie long enough for you to ruin him.
Yeah. And he's like, again, this is a moment of like great character. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get some stuff here into the characters, right? Once you're done with this guy.
Yeah, this guy doesn't really come back. Doesn't much. No impact.
Yeah.
One scene.
Well,
Taught Susan how to make coffee.
He should be another guy that you see again because he was the one who bartered with Barlow and Straker, set all this stuff up. He needs to have that moment like, holy shit, I made the deal with the devil.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, I can't believe that I, you know, in you know, completely extorting this town and you know, I've actually become the demise of this whole thing. You know, like he's actually one of just as responsible for the demise of this town as anyone. And it was like they pay no mind to it, and it's something that they show in every other adaptation. And it really wouldn't have taken. You could have taken one of those shots that you know you shot Christine in for, you know, the 3 shots, and well, you could have put that in there. I like I said, it is just so disjointed.
Yeah, and to me, the more we talk about it, the less I like this movie adaptation of this. I really.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not sure I could
thing.
like this movie less.
No,
that's another thing that's very disappointing. Because, like, for instance, I mean, this is something I haven't seen in any vampire movie, and I would love to see is more existential horror. Like the idea, you have crosses literally like lighting up when you're near these vampires, and like the idea of holy water and crucifixes like killing these vampires. Like, why don't you go straight to church after this and start praying to God and like why don't
Blessing
we
yourself.
yeah, like you've confirmed God is real. Like, well, that doesn't really seem to ever hit them, like instead it's like, oh, we gotta go to old Mr.
Wait
Right.
till we get on Callahan.
Hold
dude.
on,
Wait
Vigo
till
got something.
I'm gonna say I thought that's what Marcus. I thought that would be his thing. He'd be like, "We should come to Jesus, guys. We should go see the priest on this." Because when the teacher saw the vampire, I thought Ben wrote vampire movies. I thought that's why when he got free things, like, "Ooh, let me go get the new guy and the new girl that's around the corner and explain this to them." Because if you just saw that and he knew what he knew, he's like, "Well, we need to get a priest. We need like spiritual ammo to go fight these vampires." So I was confused as to why he went to Ben and the other girl, because it was like, okay, Ben must write vampire books because the priest is like right there. You know him personally.
Yeah.
Like, is that happening in the show too? Like,
the best part is when he walks into the church and just like, get the hell out of my way, preacher. I'm gonna get some holy water and then I'm out. I don't need your what are you talking about?
Mark? That's not Mark. That's Marcus. Okay, I'm gonna call him from Marcus because that is that's not Mark behavior. It sounds like Mark behavior at all. Because Marcus was just disrespectful.
Even the priest, they cut his legs off in this movie. Like, he plays a bigger part too. Like, the whole being a drunk and stuff, it plays to, his debate with his faith and stuff like that. That plays into it, and it was just completely cut at the legs here in this movie.
I thought that's where they were good. I thought that was the angle. That's why.
Yeah, they don't.
They also made him completely. Yeah, they cut his legs out, but there's certain things that it also cuts the legs out of the story, because at the end of the day, he has faith. He's just struggling with it. So when you see that cross start to lose its like light, there's something more powerful when Barlow walks up to you, takes the cross away, and crushes it in your hands.
Yeah,
and then
I hate
and
that.
then even worse, not killing him, but damning him where he can't even go back into the church. I mean, that's more horrific. But while we're on this scene, I just want to ask a question to the panel. Has anyone ever bought a book where the author's picture on the back is that freaking big, like not in the inside sleeve, but it's just like a full on portrait?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like 70s. I mean, you look at like the like if you would have saw Salem's Lot, the original hardback when it was released, it would have had pictures of that size.
Oh, they're huge pictures. Yeah,
it's similar to old school Stephen King books. Like,
that's what I was saying. Yeah, could just find like an old
with like superstar authors.
No, but I'm saying that's inside the sleeve. This is on the back of the book.
No, do that. I'm in the back of the book.
They would have like, because again, if it's a known author, they would throw it on the back, and then underneath they would have like the blurbs about the reviews or things like that.
I have more King books over here, but
but you need some old ones.
I have first editions downstairs, and the only first edition I have up here is of the Richard Bach. Here we go.
Okay.
Misery. I was like, I knew I had a first edition of Misery.
Yeah.
So
I stand corrected. I just that was jarring to me. I've never seen a picture of the author on the back of the book. I've only ever seen it inside the sleeve.
Yeah, I really am really disappointed that we didn't get like creepy vampires in this. Like, I also was very disappointed of the fact that Barlow is shown, but the fact that they couldn't write in like more. When we get to it, the townsfolk didn't feel intimidating whatsoever when they were vampires in this. But
no.
Go ahead.
Sammy, here's the Painted Bird by Jerry Kaczynski. Here's a nice picture of him on the back. Here's also Jimmy Buffett. Where's Joe Merchant? And there's a nice big picture of him on the back. And then, of course, Rush Limbaugh. He puts himself on the front like a G.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And I would do front and back if I was going to do it. Yeah.
There you go. Wait a minute. Is Ben's pose like this? I think so, right?
I think it is.
Yeah.
That actually might be kind of what they're
Stephen
going
King
for.
loves writing in little avatar characters for himself,
He does.
I'm surprised he wasn't in this whatsoever, too. Oh, wow.
Yeah, no cameo. He's too old. Yeah, and too divisive now. People
like had him in the morgue.
Yeah.
I have another copy of Misery that I've read, but this is the first edition, and I didn't even take the price tag that they paid. I paid $40.
Misery's
for it.
my favorite Stephen King. It's all about him getting off of cocaine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stephen King did better writing when he was on drugs, but
Yes, he did.
Totally.
Yes,
Except for
he
that
did.
one scene from It. But yes.
Well,
Yeah.
his endings were always questionable, but yeah, it was like, oh, Steven, we need to have a
I heard
talk.
someone the other day
Come
say
on,
he'll
dude.
he'll write for like 3 pages and describe a shoe or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
And it was like his biggest self-insert too, where it was like, "What should we do? Let's ask our writer friend because he's
think
so
Will-
good, and he can't do anything wrong." Stuttering Bill, you're the hero.
My first Stephen King book and movie was Tommyknockers.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a rough. Ooh. Mm.
Yeah,
I like that
yeah.
movie.
And the fact that I liked the books way better, but the book is still not the best. But
No.
Mine was the
That-
Green Mile.
that's a little bit more tamer than Tommy. Have you
Oh,
ever
yeah.
read Tommyknockers? Yeah, yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
have.
Tommyknockers is a fever dream. You have to be on drugs to enjoy that book.
What is
Um,
Tommyknockers about?
Aliens.
Aliens at an airport.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Interdimensional creatures. Yeah.
Probably that's where
I
my
think
fear of aliens stemmed from. Now that I think of it, because I read it when I was like middle school or younger a little bit. Yeah.
I think my first Stephen King was Cat's Eye, which wasn't based on a book. He wrote it specifically as a script. That was a good
Yeah.
one.
What do we think of Mackenzie's portrayal of Susan? I think she's all right. I think she's
I thought she did great. Like I said, I think
Yeah.
I think
That
she's the
haircut's a little
strongest character in the entire movie.
Yeah.
that
I
haircut
think
does nothing for her.
yeah, but again, it was the 70s. It was everything was ugly. I mean, it was the ugliest decade. I can't decide if she was a good actress or not. I think she was fine as for the physical appearance or whatever. But you just know that between the dialogue and then clearly the direction that's being given to the actors. I don't know what the hell you do with these people. I mean, I can't evaluate how good they are or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just
And it's sad we're
thought-
probably never going to get another adaptation of this in a very, very long time. Go ahead, Ego. Sorry.
No, I just like, for me, it was like, well, hey, I need a hollow, great value diet version of Jessica Biel. Can we get that? And that's all that I got. I mean, she was just like, she's more like an emotional anchor. So I guess she did her job in that regard, but there really isn't anything that stood out to her, which is kind of what sucks because we're following, outside of Marcus, we're following her. Like, you're from the town and you don't have any friends. So again,
Marcus.
hollow.
She's also, if I had no knowledge of any of the books or any other adaptations, you can tell, like in a vampire movie, just by the shape of certain actors and actresses' mouths, where like eventually they're going to be a vampire. Like it was like
Yeah.
she just got.
It was like, oh,
she's
you
got
can
the right
make the
mouth shape.
prosthetics work, can't you? Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, I don't want to. I think most of my criticisms from this are basing it off the source material, but the big ones that don't involve the source material are definitely the pacing, rushed pacing, and this sickly look and some other things. But yeah,
They really should have done this as a mini series. They really
I
should have,
agree.
or because I'm sure
I hate
there's-
miniseries, but yes, I have to agree.
or just like a 3-parter. It doesn't have to be 8 episodes or 10 episodes. I'm sure there's a lot missing that's on the editing floor that they could have just went back and said, okay, we've got like 3.5 hours movie. We could do 3 different
It
different
wouldn't have
episodes.
helped.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't
again,
know.
we
Flesh out
see
more
the dialogue that exists here. We see the direction that
Yeah.
exists here. The last thing I want is another couple of hours from this guy. The only way to
Thinking
fix
like an
this
extra
is to
30
get
minutes, maybe 2.5
No,
hours. That's
this
still pretty
thing
long.
needs a different director and screenwriter.
True.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
unless you're
Everybody
talking-
else, please stay. I mean, they recreated 1975 brilliantly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
if you
except
unless
for
you
the
tell me
lighting.
James, if you tell me James Wan is going to direct the remake of this, all right, fine, you got that. But unless it's that, it's going to go another 20 years before we get another remake.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I mean, I know if I was making a movie, I would want this crew. Because my
Because
God,
we're
would
just
they
not the writer.
all the little details? They put the work in. They got everything right,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, they were betrayed by this ass clown, Gary Dauberman.
Yeah.
We could still remake
is-
Return to Salem's Lot.
Oh. But it's true. Like the
Let's go to
writer,
Tijuana.
he wrote the one. There's quite a few Annabelle movies. I think there's 3, but there's only one really good one, and I think it was Creations. Or one of
Creation
them.
was the best.
Oh,
Yeah, and he wrote that. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
all right. The other 2 are
Right.
probably shit, but this
Did
one's
he write
really
it alone?
good. I don't think so.
that's
That's
what
what
Okay,
I'm.
but it's also in a remote area in one location, with only a handful of characters, and it's already established that it's one thing. This is a very, unfortunately for him, it's a very complex evil that we're dealing
Ooh.
with here.
He also directed Annabelle Comes Home.
Yes, he
That
did.
should
Yeah.
have been our
Comes
first.
Home sucked.
Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
looked at his directing work, and he has done some shit.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better just to stay in the writer's room. I use your talents and your strengths elsewhere, you know.
Preferably with other writers, given the dialogue that I'm dealing with, and that ending that you wrote.
And while I
And
did
this-
like chapter 1 and 2 of the It remake, there was a lot of problems with the dialogue and writing in chapter 2. It was a little rushed in certain spots, and I have a feeling I know where the problem is stemming from now by watching this then. But anyway, moving forward, so we have these kids, they're on their way home with Mark. Mark has made some friends in the town, which also, I don't know, it's established that he's new to town, but how long has he been here? Because he's making friends pretty fast. And then how, like, it's just, how did they become friends? There's no like development here. There's no layout to this.
Well,
He's
they can,
friends. He's friends because, and this again,
stood
this
up
is
to the
not how it
bully.
is in any other thing. He stands up to the bully, and they walk him home because they don't want him getting jumped again because he's going to come back. The bully's going to come back with older kids,
right.
so they're kind of doing him a public service, and then he takes them up to his room. They're not really like friends. One of them says at the end, like, hey, like, I hope they don't kill you so we can hang out again. You could take that any way. You don't even know if it's really.
And he gives
genuine.
the youngest kid the harmonica because he's afraid of the dark.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Which I saw that coming back to play too. We really didn't
Oh, I
get
knew that was
we
gonna
got one creepy kid at the window scene, and it didn't hit to me like the 79 version did.
That's why I said Danny. Where was Danny's claws? Because the reason the 79 works is it's his claws scratching and kind of squealing on the glass, whereas this one is you might as well just sat outside and thrown pebbles.
Well, I think the kid, Danny was the kid that's supposed to be on the window, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
think he was incredibly miscast. I mean, you could have put another creepy kid on here. For me, it's like, if I saw him, he would have been perfect. And I'm surprised they haven't tried doing this. If you remade The Good Son, he would have been great for that.
Yeah,
He's creepy as a child. You're like, he's off, but I'm not sure because he looks like he wouldn't do me any harm, but then he pushes me down the stairs. He's not. I turn into a. Yeah, he's like, that's why I think it worked. He's too old to do it now, but I'm like, he would have hit it perfectly if they'd have done that for him with that instead of this. He's not a vampire menacing kid to me. Now, if the kid with the harmonica, I would have liked to see that. If you'd have switched the kids and made the window kid the sacrifice, and then made the other guy the actual like vampire was menacing with the claws, I would have liked that because he went from being scared of everything to like he's not scared anymore because he's dead.
Well, in the original, there's 2 window scenes in the original. There is
two.
Yeah, when
Okay.
one kid, I forgot the name, but one kid, basically the younger one turns Danny with the same kind of window scene, and then the more creepier one is when Danny comes back with the nails to Mark's bedroom scene too.
Right.
Okay.
And the fact that Mark knows, like, without even kind of researching vampires, I know we get that scene, but already knows to like shut the blinds, not like this kid's 11 years old. This kid should be like under his blankets, just
Wetting
freaking
your
out.
bed.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, even
Yeah.
in the book, he instinctually when Danny says like open the window, he catches himself doing it. Like, you know what I mean? That's how he realizes, and that shows how smart that Mark actually is in the book, where he goes, "Oh my God, he's glamming me!" Like, I read about that. You know what I mean? Like, he catches himself. You know, in this, it was just like, oh, he kind of goes, "Oh my God, my friend's a vampire." Like, it was like, no, that wouldn't be your thought process.
Yeah, and I don't think it helps with the eyes go white, because then you lose the kind of reaction thing, because the psychologically, your friend dies. He's at your window. You're not going to think vampire, right? It's because of just the way that your brain would be. It was like, oh, it's my friend, and it would take a second for your brain to kick in and go, dude, he's dead, and then you go, whoa, what am I doing, right? And step back. But you don't get any of that.
Got that right. The only time they got that right is with Matt Ryerson in the cemetery, where when he hears the kid pounding on the coffin,
right,
and then he goes, "Oh no, I must be crazy. I'm losing it." And then you know what I mean. And then he looks back down, and the coffin's open. That was the only genuine time where I was like, "Okay, this is spooky."
Right.
Like, it's the only time they nailed it.
But I thought the original was way scarier, that scene when they open the coffin and his eyes in there with his eyes open. And this one he flies around and does all this stuff. It's way less. It's stupid. I don't know.
Very underused character, Father Callahan. Very underused character. I like when he's not even in. I don't even. When we got to the kitchen scene or when we got to the church scene, I completely forgot that we had already introduced this character here. Because that's how minimal this scene just hits. Like, okay, he's a drunk, but it's I'm with you, Goodwin. The more I think about this, it's the more of the shit dialogue that they've been given on it.
Yeah. Father Callahan should very much be akin to like Father Damien in The Exorcist, where he's got all this inner turmoil. He's struggling with his faith, and like I said earlier, that comes down to one of the biggest scenes in any adaptation in this, and they completely fumbled the bag, where it is all right, let's test your faith. It has failed you. You know what I mean? It was like they were on the fence whether you could go either way, because there's times where he helps, there's times where he doesn't, but when it really comes down to the line, Barlow takes that cross and breaks it in his hands. And that should be one of the most powerful parts in any time you're telling this story. And I don't even remember how they did it at this point. It is.
Oh, he just walks up and then the crucifix, the batteries run out, and he goes, "Oh, it's sad to see a man lose his faith." And then there you go.
Oh my God! And the dialogue in the book is so good. Where he's like shaman. Like calling him all these things except for priest. It was so good. Like, I was around before your faith was even a thing. And then you realize it's not about Christ or anything. This is about light versus dark.
Yes.
And
the priest is that he is teetering, right? He's not, oh, I'm done and I'm out like the sheriff, right? In this thing, he's supposed to, he still goes through the motions, but he's getting older. He's become a bit disillusioned, but he still does that or whatever. And that's why Barlow undermines that cleverly by talking him into doubt. And then that's what destroys him, right? None of that happens here.
No.
From best till dawn, better.
Oops. Sorry, Nadia.
Looking at the IMDb, I guess we lost a scene of young Ben Mears too, because there was someone who was casted, and
I read that
he's uncredited too. So we are missing quite a bit on this.
I thought that we were going to get that, because, like I said, I have been drooling for this movie for years. It was like, you can go back on my Twitter, like every couple months, I was like, "Hey, Warner Brothers, release this movie, you cowards!" And just really wanting to see it.
Be careful what you ask for.
I definitely got it. Also, another thing that they've left out is the whole, and we keep harkening back to that, the small town is not a character in this. He is, and they hint to it when Ben Mears pulls up and Parson Gillespie's like, "You're not going to cause any trouble." Something they do a good job with in the book is, as soon as Ben Mears comes to the town, people start to go missing, and no one has questioned him. No one is suspicious of him. The only person
they do that here.
They did do that.
They do that here.
They filled it in with dialogue when they fast forward.
When they return from the search after
for it. Yeah. Even what's his name?
The teacher.
The one obsessed with Susan.
He bumps into
Well, no, he bumps into him when he goes, "Go back to New York. I don't like you." But that's because he's got the hots for Susan, and he knows Susan likes him.
Right, but then when he's like talking to the teacher goes, "Yeah, word gets around," and then he's like, "But the people are still kind of giving the stink eye or whatever. And Ben is the one that explains it. Ben says, well, yeah, I'm the stranger in town and the kid goes missing. It's an obvious thing for them to come together. And the teacher just kind of,
Oh,
And
you're right. You're right.
Parkins interviewed him. He says, yeah, he talked to me. I had a alibi at the night of it because it was during the drive-in scene.
Oh, you're right. He does.
Really
He
early
does.
on. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So at this point in the movie, Ralphie has been sacrificed to, which I think I skipped over, which I thought was it was all right. It was.
I
all
did
right.
like
except
kidnapping
Straker's pickup thing is just, what the hell is this? I mean, he's creepy guy who's like, I have a puppy in my car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought
No,
the actual kidnapping
I
scene was
much-
shot
I
pretty
much
well
like it.
with the silhouette woods and stuff and the sunset.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the more
No.
visually interesting scenes in the whole movie.
I agree with you. I thought that was really cool.
I like that they make it, that they show that he is a sacrifice, but even then, it doesn't look like a servant bringing something to his master. It looks like he's like a crazy person, excited. You know what I mean? He just seems more like he's just like a run of the mill serial killer than someone who is, subservient to somebody. And another thing too, I don't like you can't hear this big ass dude behind you. Like,
Well, I can't
I hated
remember,
all of this.
but as a familiar, doesn't he have some sort of vampiric like abilities? He's not full vampire, but he's like a
He's strong.
extension of Barlow. So he has abilities to be like quiet and stuff. I mean, he just doesn't. He's a daywalker.
I guess, yeah. He the only thing that you really see in the book is that he's strong. Nowhere near the strength that like James Mason shows in the miniseries. But yeah, he's strong. He's stronger. He's smarter than your average bear. He's just built a little different. But there's nothing almost supernatural about him. He just seems to be like he has a deal with the devil, and there's a couple like benefits from that. It's,
the movie that actually portrays that kind of relationship the best? Fright Night, the original.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah. I'm not.
Right, night
I like the
rules.
original. The remake's not too bad. It's not terrible.
No, the remake's not bad either.
Yeah.
I like Fright Night
I mean,
Part
I
2
love
a
the
lot
original.
too.
So do
Yeah.
I. I think it's very understated.
I thought at least with the horror, we were going to get more horror similar to The Sacrifice, where the kid's like masked up. Well, not masked, but eye covered, which was weird to me that they would just leave one eye open. So that
And they have him aiming for the kid in the burlap sack like it's a gun sight earlier. It was just like you have this maybe the meat, it's like an it thing. The meat tastes better when it's terrified, so you're gonna have that one little thing. Also, when we're going to it, that scene, the next scene with Danny, in the
With the scratches on the neck?
in the backyard, that takes way too long.
Oh, God, yes.
I was like, how many times is the seesaw going to go up and down? When you know what's coming,
Yeah.
And that replaced one of the window scenes from the original. That's originally how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that took like 15 seconds as opposed to this 2-minute scene where like this is another missed opportunity where you could have gotten more stuff. And look at Stryker's face here, where he's like a psychopath, but all of a sudden he kind of looks like he's disturbed by this. And
he looks like he's crying.
Yeah, he's like, you know what you're in for.
I just want to know why. I guess because it's a dying town, you didn't think the screams would be loud enough for a nosy neighbor to be like, "I heard screaming. It sounded like a child." Because they show you the outside of the house, and you're screaming.
They do.
The Marston house
is
away from.
Yeah, the Marston house is very much separate from. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Past this, as this kid is being devoured, there's a scene where they're showing different parts of the town where you can faintly hear the screaming in the background.
That's why I was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, "Where's?"
Yeah, but the problem is that it doesn't seem like the screaming is diegetic to what you're seeing. It's like they're trying to use the child scream to show its effect on the town and how things are going to happen and all that stuff or whatever. Again, it's just it's bad filmmaking.
I also didn't like the fact that we see Barlow full like that there's no big reveal. We just see him here fully.
Yeah.
With his, and it's
Yeah.
just, it doesn't intimidate to me. There's no threat, to be honest.
Yeah, you don't
mean,
have the ominous
yeah.
foreboding that just keeps getting built up with the idea of Barlow should be more terrifying, right, throughout the story, and then you finally see him, and he is so horrendous and strong and clever and all that, right? That's what you're like the. This is basically. Oh, look, it's big blue silly person. Okay, we got that. Yep,
Yeah.
he ate some things.
No, yeah, in the original one, even when you see him, the first time you see him, you only see him for like a split second. You go, "What the hell was that?"
Mhm.
You know, like,
Yep.
And
I
he's
think the
already
makeup-
killed a bunch of people by then.
mhm.
Yep.
Right.
And I think the makeup in the original is more intimidating than the whatever's going on in this one, whether it's mix of practical and CGI. And mind you, it's the 70s, right? When this was the original. So it's not as up to date as the new one, but I still think it's way more intimidating than whatever was going on here.
Completely agree.
Especially with the head thing where the vein, like I didn't really
Oh,
like
the
that.
veins when they start to get
Yeah.
darker. Yeah, I hated that too.
It would have been cool in another vampire movie, is what I was saying. But like
The Strain or the 30 or 30
yeah.
Days of Night, that's where it fits more. In
When I
that.
first saw that, Nadia, what I thought what was happening was the cross was affecting him. And then I realized it's like, oh, he's dead, and he's getting blood, so you're starting to see the blood circulate through his body. It was like I didn't know what to make of it, but I thought it was like, oh, the cross is affecting him, and then obviously that wasn't the case.
Yeah, again, this is a problem with the direction, is that you don't understand, cause and effect for a lot of these shots, right? Especially the confrontations, the battle things. You're not sure where people are, where they're coming from, where the hell am I in a particular space? It's just, again, the directing is bad.
Yeah.
By the way,
It's
to me,
the opposite of what we had last time I was with Nadia, and we were talking about the Penguin, where me and Gooch had all these different theories, and it was so well done because these theories had enough setup where all of our guesses could have been plausible. They had enough things. It was like this. We're just making these theories and these guesses because it's so poorly written. We just don't know what to do with it.
Right.
what I have on screen is the angel or vampire from Midnight Mass. Whether you like the series or not, to me, this makeup design fits more in a line with the Salem's Lot book and TV shows, more so than what we got in this remake.
Absolutely.
A little bit simpler, a little bit more humanoid, but still terrifying. Still has a presence. And this vampire had the same kind of presence as the 1979 one, where you don't see it till the later half of the series, but it's always foreboding over you. Like there's always
the
a
presence
shadow
is
of
always
it.
there.
Yeah.
And
Where
it doesn't
here,
look
it
weird when the
doesn't.
actor articulates. Like every time that Barlow like moved his mouth in this, I was like, he looked like Baraka from Mortal Kombat. Like,
nice.
So at this point, Ralphie, I think it's Ralphie. Yeah, Ralphie is dead. He's coming back to get his brother Danny. Danny finds the harmonica. You really don't see much of Danny. He just kind of gets pulled up, and then he becomes sick. So now there's a sickness happening, which is not really utilized as much as it is in the book and in the original movies.
no, that was
too.
Barlow who got him.
In the original. Yes, I'm sorry. In this, sorry, I'm mixing up my stuff.
No,
And this
that's how it happens in the mini series. And this this time, like they do it in the book, even though like instead of in the cemetery, he does sacrifice Ralphie, but Barlow comes for Danny, and
Yes.
that's
Yes. Sorry. Again,
No, it's fine.
Benadryl is hitting me. I am riding this Benadryl ride all the way to the end of this. All right. So Danny doesn't necessarily get killed right away. He becomes sick. So this is the vampires turning. This is their sickness and turning. Which, by the way, I watched in Near Dark right after this. I kind of like that kind of vampire lore of the turning, where it's
Near
you're
Dark
just
is
like,
much better.
yeah, you're
Near
very
Dark-
sick
Near
over.
Dark is
and stuff.
immensely better than this.
This is
But
just,
also, this is inconsistent where they're like, hey, it might take a couple minutes. It could be a day. Also, the thing that I hated the most was that so on the nose thing where Danny goes, I'm thirsty. and then tears the blood bag open, and it was just like no one had questions about that. No one was raving about this in this small town, like, oh, it was terrible. You know, the boys, even if it was out of ignorance, there was like they said his blood count was so low that the poor kid, one of the last things he did was tear the blood bag open and try to drink it. Like,
yeah, because again, this town doesn't exist. They don't communicate with each other. There's no grapevine of gossip.
It's not even that. Happens. Well, yeah, that on top of the fact there's no grapevine, there's also, where's the paper? You showed me all them damn articles at the beginning. Like, this place is going down with all the information. When it happens, you got it next day, hot the press. A child dying and open up a blood bag, that's front page on, the Jerusalem's Lot Ledger. Like, that should be front page news, and it's not. Not even an obituary.
Well,
especially since his brother just is missing still. They don't have a body for his brother either. His brother's never found. So his brother's not found. This kid gets sick. He dies drinking his own blood thing. And then there's nobody there. And the grapevine thing in the book and in the original, that's how people found out about stuff. So
right, because the newspaper wouldn't print that stuff because we don't want to upset Mrs. Glick, and we're just trying to so it'd be poor Danny has passed, and the service will be at so and all that stuff or whatever, right? So that stuff would.
Oh my God. And they didn't have to keep this in the movie, but I really wanted to see the part where Danny's dad breaks down and he starts screaming at the coffin. I've always wanted to see that in live action, where he's like, "You're upsetting your mother. Get out of there!" Like,
yeah, but that would be too human for this show, so we definitely can't have that.
I guess the other thing was, even for this scene, I'm like, does no one in this town have actual friends? Because I mean, unless you're telling me he's a raging alcoholic and is just like was drunk at the service, I can't explain you falling asleep or taking a nap for 4 hours behind a tree and nobody notices.
Well, yeah, and in the book, people are like, "Dude, where the hell you been?" There's a bar, and it's actually in the movie. It's called Dell's, and like that's like the hub of the town. People, so like,
that's the men's gossip grapevine.
Yeah, so I mean, and that kind of happens similarly, but like. People notice that Mike's not there. People notice that Mike doesn't look good. It's just that Matt Burke is the only the teacher. Matt Burke is the only person who actually goes up to him and goes like, "Hey man, are you feeling okay? You don't look good." Like you would expect to see that.
Matt Burke pretty much put that together that he's a vampire way too quick.
Even
at the fact of seeing somebody climb into your window, automatically you're going to go, "Oh, it's a vampire."
The house belongs to Matt after that. Yeah. I'm not coming back.
You need to establish early on that he's obsessed with vampires or something.
And also in every other version, the realization of this. So Matt Burke is like fighting, like it's in the back of his head, going like, "Oh, I kind of recognize that." Once he makes that realization, it's so powerful. He has a heart attack. Yeah, and he goes to the hospital. You know what I mean? So like.
Right, your entire understanding of the world just got turned on its ass. Right, that everything that you think you know, and logic and reason, and here's the kind of the constraints of any expectation that could happen in today. All that shit just got thrown the hell out. No, by the way, these ancient myths are actually true, and you would freak the hell out.
Okay, yeah. This is how
horror, dude. That's what I want.
Yes. In early writings of The Dark Knight Rises, they wanted to introduce, someone suggested that they introduce Superman. In this trilogy, this Batman trilogy, where they tried to do it is kind of like as real as they possibly could. You know what I mean? Where there wasn't anything too supernatural or outlandish. All of a sudden, they wanted this alien to come out of the sky that flies and shoots lasers out of his eyes. And someone went, "No, that would just completely undo everything we just did." That's what should happen to Matt Burke. You know what I mean? Like, that's how groundbreaking this is, where, it was like everything that is wrong.
By the way, I hate the lighting in these fucking night shots. I can't see shit. Like, I shouldn't have to adjust the brightness on my TV or screens. And this turquoise layover and the fog too, like where I guess half of their budget went to fog in that one scene, because the fog never really comes back until the end when the townsfolk are coming, and the other window scenes. But there's just, it doesn't.
It's teal for night.
It's teal for night, and it's just awful. Like, I'm looking at it, and it's a little darker on this, but on my actual screen, it's still fucking dark.
Oh yeah,
it's still fucking dark.
And low contrast is another big thing that's common with all the modern movies. Low contrast. I want high contrast. Like, this is better right here, but
this is high contrast, but this is so poorly written too. Like, what the.
He's supposed to look sick. He's not supposed to look already dead.
That's fair. I'm glad that as a visually and hearing impaired person, y'all had the same problem as I did, because I was like, what? I'm like this close into the screen. Like, what is happening?
Oh yeah.
Color palettes for movies, Ego, matter a lot to me. If the color palette works, I'm totally involved in the movie. It doesn't take me out. But when they contrast this, especially with their day shoots and night shoots, and then sometimes their day shoots don't have that yellow filter over it, so it doesn't really match to. It just takes me out of it, because it tells me like you shot everything and didn't put the effort into on set to do proper lighting. You just went, okay, we're just going to fix it in post, or we're just going to put a filter over in post.
I think it's actually the opposite. I think this is all shot. I mean, this clearly had blue light, and all that. But I think there's a lot of stuff that is shot clean, and then in post. Yeah. Oh, let's color correct this. Let's do that or whatever. And it's like, step away from the keyboard and leave it the hell alone.
Like, this is great. I
like how Matt Burke shows up to this bar with like a stack of books to read. Like, I'm here to drink.
As small town teachers do. Yeah. And did anybody else pick up on the fact that there was some kind of weird relationship between him and the doctor too? Like, at some, it just.
They're close in the book. In the book,
I know they're close in the book.
He's actually Matt Burke's doctor. You know what I mean?
But it doesn't. It's not established here that they're close. It's it's a.
I mean, if you're looking for weird relationships, that's this entire movie.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm saying, like, they're expecting you to infer these things that, like, I know having read the book, and like, I feel like somebody must have, because like these things are trying to be conveyed here. It's just they don't pull the trigger on any of them, and it just comes across as jarring, and it comes across as weird.
Right, because again, you don't establish. So, if you're in a small town, the doctor, the lawyer, the certain teachers, right, like the really good teachers or whatever, right, those are kind of the intellectuals. They're going to hang in their own little circle. Yeah, they're involved in other things, but they're going to know each other better than they would know the plumber.
Yeah, but they're also people of a certain age,
right,
as well.
Well, but not in this one.
We've got 60 people watching. Thank you, everybody who's watching right now. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications. We'll have some live streams for future horror movies as well and series. So please do so. Thank you very much. So in this, I don't understand why he just sees a bite on his neck and this guy is just sickly, and that he just automatically goes vampire.
Yeah. Well, also, doesn't even look like bite marks. It looks like two little shaving nick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, when you see Barlow and his teeth, you're like, did he go?
He like grazed him. Yeah. So scratched him with his teeth. They should be deep, like swollen red puncture marks.
It should look like a shark bite.
Yeah.
The way that you have your teeth set up.
Quarter-inch in.
Now, if you had it like Barlow in the original one, or like a Nosferatu, where it's just the two in the front, I could see that. Teeth, You gave him shark teeth, and then he's got these two dainty little things on his neck, and it's just like
it's Danny who bites him. It's not Barlow.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
He's got little baby fangs.
But it's still, I mean, vampires technically in this world right now are supposed to be superstitial, like beings that you read Dracula and all these books. And that's another thing that didn't follow up with, where Matt was like, oh, I'm going to read up on Barlow and see what I can find and stuff.
It was like, you ain't got the internet down at the library. What are you talking about?
It's never addressed again.
Well, and they do these things in the book.
Well, he doesn't make it.
So he's the Van Helsing character. He was supposed to be where all the plethora of knowledge and stuff go, but then they just kill him. He says he's going to do all these things like, hey, I'm going to research this.
Right.
So,
And he gets
he's
killed.
not part of the action in the book. He has a heart attack after Mike comes back as a vampire. It scares him so bad. So the rest of the time he's in the hospital and people are going to the library for him and he's reading these books. So, but instead of like having that extra thing, they go, well, let's just kill him. And then
let's just have him in the basement with no stairs.
Then, a good thing you have Mark, who's the Swiss Army knife of characters.
Yeah, he's got comic books, so we're good.
Yeah,
I have a feeling I know where the inspiration for Marcus comes from, but I'll probably save it to the end unless y'all want to hear it now.
I want to hear it now. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Not really
And
going in
actually, surprisingly,
If you say it's the people under the stairs, I'm gonna kick you.
no, it's actually more of a grounded thing that tries to trick you into saying that it's vampire related, but it's called the Transfiguration. It came out in 2016.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Yeah, you see what I mean? He's like how knowledgeable
right.
he is. You know what I'm saying?
I see
It's
it.
dead on, right?
Yeah.
And and it's like that's why I thought like, okay, that kid acts the same as Marcus, and that kid was a sociopath. And he tried to explain it away because like, oh, well, I'm a vampire. Like, no, you like ending people's lives, and you don't really have emotions that most people should have. So ergo, and like the age matches, the intonation of voice, the not necessarily affected by anything emotionally, caring about others, but not necessarily caring about anything really else, and it not being able to be shown, more like gestures, but not necessarily words that mean anything. All that lines up with Marcus.
I will tell you that your Transfiguration movie is actually influenced by Let the Right One In, which is a vampire book, and then it got it was a movie, and then there's a westernized movie to it as well.
I saw that one. Yeah, I saw both versions, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I get where you try to do that with the Transfiguration, but you also might have wanted to throw some other stuff in there because he does have issues. But it's like the writer and director of this movie saw that and was like, oh, I'm going to put him in here because the amount of detail that he has for just being 11 and him being 11 and not 15 when you guys know he's 15 and I didn't know it. He's acting so much more mature than 11 should be. Leads me to believe it's kind of like faxing a fax of a fax of a fax.
Yeah,
So
I could see that.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I actually have never seen Transfiguration, but by reading the description, I'm like, wait a minute, this is Let the Right One In, which is a really interesting vampire book that deals with a lot very heavy topics because it's about a vampire who's a child, who's aged, and there's it's just
the thing is, it's so it wouldn't match Marcus because Marcus, again, when we talk about him as like a psychopath or a sociopath, that would not be the matchup for because Let the Right One In wants someone who loves because
Transfiguration is different.
Right, that's why I'm saying it's the difference.
There's like degrees of separation of like where the influences come back from. But I'm interested. I'm gonna check out this movie and see.
It's not scary at all. It's more like drama based with an explanation.
Indie horror.
Indie horror.
I mean, just watch anything but this.
Fair.
No, you should probably watch this one. It's fun. It was good to watch and talk about with you guys. So for that,
I knew this was coming when we were going to see the glowing eyes in this scene.
Well, here's what I had a problem with the glowing eyes is like I like it better. They're not glowing eyes. They don't have like light sources in them. I like it better when they're reflective, like in the original movie. And because like when someone dies, their eyes get that dead look. You know, they
well, you want them to be like a cat's eyes because they have the ability to so you have the double reflection.
When they literally have like lights that glow in them and turn off at times, it's a little silly. And I don't know. It's not as fun.
I think it's
missed
so
opportunity.
Much more effective what they did the first time, where you hear the creak of the rocking chair, and then he has to work his way up those stairs, and I can't remember, when he sees that. When he sees those eyes looking back at him, just sitting there like nothing had happened, and then he shows the fangs and everything, and then you're like, "Wow, I'm in this. This is something else." And then you took a scene with that much drama, that much tension in it, and then you're like, screw it, we'll just do a jump scare." And then
By the way, continuity issues in this scene. Where's the drop of blood on this pillow?
It's on.
It's after. Has he come back from the window? The little window
This is-
escapade.
This is so now Matt has went and got Ben and Susan. They automatically believe him for some reason, or they just don't think he's crazy, or they do and they just follow along with it. And then Ben sees a drop of blood next to his neck, and then that must mean he's a vampire. Like
Yeah,
any
see, around here should
vampire
be.
it should be better to I don't know. Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, like right around here is where they should be suspecting vampire, but he shouldn't utter the word vampire until he actually gets attacked by a vampire.
Well,
Yeah.
That's another part. I know I keep harkening on the book, but like this is in the book. This is the part that really only genuinely like kind of like freaked me out. I wouldn't say that it scared me, but you hear Mike Ryerson invite Danny Glick in, and he hears that in his living room. He hears, "Yes, come in," and Matt Burke goes, "What did he just invite into my house?"
Right.
And like there's that could have been so much better. And like I said, just a jump scare. You could have had something that people would have been talking about for weeks if you did it well in live action. And even if it's been terrible abuse of the actual like dialogue in the book, but even if you had none of that and just recreated that scene, people would have been affected by it.
Well,
That's
again,
the-
the original has such a for the times that it lags, where it's trying to kind of convey what's going on in the town and the slow depression of that or whatever. When they decide to do scares, they understand how to build suspense, right? It's not look at hoo ha ha. You hear a rocking chair where no one should be rocking in a chair, and
in a room
that
where a guy just
rhythmic
died.
sound, and you're like, "The hell is that?"
I
Oh
don't
shit!
want
Right, and it builds tension as you come up to it.
Ego. I want you to go back and watch the 1979 version. It's very long because it's a miniseries put into.
I
a movie.
might.
But
I might. I want to check it out.
the scene they're discussing is just, to me, it's creepier than the window scene in the movie. It's just, and when I was editing my review of the 79 one, and I was rewatching it, I get chills every single time that scene comes on.
Oh yeah,
I'm watching.
and then the most
daytime,
iconic line in it, he goes, "You'll sleep like the dead, teacher." He doesn't say it here, and then they have Matt Burke say it in the basement, and it doesn't make sense.
That's classic.
Yeah, you're right.
I will say I wasn't necessarily. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
Ego. Go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna say with everyone with the eye thing, I wasn't impressed by it. I mean, my eye kind of does that, so I didn't know what it was. I'm just like, okay, well, my eye does that, so it would look the same, and mine does a star shape, so
It's creepier in the original. It's way creepier with the reflection
it's way
of the
better
eyes.
done in the original.
Yeah.
That's why.
And
Well,
it's
and again,
not
the kid has claws in the
Yeah.
original. This one, he's basically just tappity tap tap tap, right? Like and perfectly trimmed
In
nails.
And
the
and his
original,
gums are
it's
black.
a-
He looks dead.
Yes.
In the original, it's not as so here you automatically, it's a vampire and then you see the eyes. In the original, you're surprised when you see those eyes. Like you're like, oh shit, this person has turned into a vampire.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Okay.
yeah, when
Again,
he's
the
rocking in the
setup.
chair, he's looking down, and it's not until he looks at Matt or he looks at Danny that they start to glow. And it's like when a cat is looking at you, or something in the dark. It feels very
Right.
like predatorial.
Yeah, when
Like,
you
it's
shine a
not-
light in the dark and you see the animals' eyes reflecting because they have that
it's
double
not,
reflection.
It's not supernatural as much as it is. Oh, this is something that hunts at night.
Yes, it's
know,
a predator.
This is, you get that feeling.
Yeah.
Bobby, I
Yeah,
have read this. I've probably read most of all King's stuff except for the last 2 or 3 books that have been released. So yes, Nightmares and Dreamscape. So
And this again, the it's a combination of pacing, but also just utterly incompetent directing and script writing. Right, the basic things that you use to build tension. Right, sounds that you don't know what they are or why they are. Right, because you don't have visual, and so you're working with limited senses in some way, and or ordinary things that are acting in an extraordinary manner. right? That's
Yeah.
the kind of thing you build up. None of this happens in here, other
There's
than
no tension.
make sure you got your D cells in your crucifix because it lights up.
Oh my god, these glow in the dark, they're like night lights. I hate this. I hate this glow in the
It's a cool effect, like on paper, but like I said, like it's confirmation God is real. Like your crucifix starts glowing out of nowhere. That should freak you out. Instead, you just pick it up.
It's like Sting in The Hobbit and in The Lord of the Rings, where like it glows every time there's an orc near. It was like, no, it's really supposed to reflect your faith and like what the light of good. And it was like, it's not supposed to be like a smoke detector that goes off every time there's a vampire,
or a glow stick that you're taking to the rave.
Yeah, and that helps build tension in the original because you don't know if the cross is going to work until basically down to the 0 mark on it.
Like, and it does glow, and so does the holy water. It glow, it does glow in the originals, and there's just like it doesn't glow like that. It just like shows there's like
it's like a halo around it.
Yeah, there's like a higher power, and you get that it's whatever that power is, it's being thrust in, towards the direction, and it's fending off that evil. It's like, like you said, it's not running on a D-cell battery. And then Jesus, when we get to her,
I thought it was interesting in the scene where they're examining the body, and her and Matt kind of nod at each other as if like she knows there are vampires in town, but is still a skeptic. It just doesn't fit. Just doesn't fit with the flow of it. And she either believes or not. And then she's one of the sole survivor. Well, like it doesn't work for me.
It's literally like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. Like it's literally like that. When it was like, so we talked about how Matt Burke, he's so skeptical that literally when he comes to the realization he has a heart attack, the doctor in the book is so skeptical it takes him to get bit to realize the situation that he's in. You know what I mean? So it was like it takes that scene, and he has like a mental breakdown afterwards, where, you know what I mean? So they do such a poor job, and that's part of the tension and the horror that we get when you watch all these established, well-to-do people have their entire world just crumble around.
Reality just gets ripped apart in front of them.
This thing out of the storybooks just came and bit you on the neck. Like, where's your medical science now?
Instead, all we have are like the older people here are like related to Grandpa from, and they all lived in Santa Carla at one time and saw the Lost Boys. And they're like, we hate the damn vampires around here. That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody just jumps to, of course they're vampires. We knew it all the time.
I was going to say it undercuts, and actually the best scene to me of the entire movie is when the mom wakes up. It's like you were on pause, and then when you wake back up, you're playing the last thing that happened to you before you turned.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, they usually have to have just wake up and all of a sudden there's the bloodlust. Like, no, she's replaying what's happening, and then she slowly kind of goes down into the vampirism.
Yeah, she has this obsession that's stuck in her head that's hard to let go of.
It was a really great scene, and they ruined it with the doctors. It was a great scene. Then immediately after, the doctors, what's happening? And then it's, I got bit. Give me a rabies shot. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah. Which, by the way, don't they give you rabies shots in your stomach?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted to find the vein. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What, are you shooting heroin, Doc? No, it's for rabies. It's fine.
I'm with you, Ego. I thought this was going to be at least a redeeming scene in the whole movie, and it just got stupid. It's just the initial like sitting up, the creepiness of repeating, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be really creepy. She's gonna stand up slowly, get to, and then this just
I love the poster from this scene. I was like, oh, that's great. I love it. But the
delivery of shit. But Ego's right.
Where everyone. In case you had any doubts, now you just saw a dead body get off the gurney, and instead they go, well, what if we turn it into a slapstick bit where it's like, oh, I just can't keep the cross together.
Yeah, oh, golly.
Well, the other thing was weird because once they get it, he's like, oh, it's working, and then drops an F-bomb, and I'm like, I think that would invalidate the faith there that you had on it once it started glowing.
I think the F-bomb is what caused the tape to fail. That's stupid. God.
Hey, Zax, have a safe trip back, man. I hope you guys have a safe flight back and get back all safe.
Buddy.
Yeah,
it was better when it was McCarran.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
touch the shoulders in person.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
photographic
And I
evidence.
thought Zax was going to be like a 4-foot leprechaun midget. He is not. He's taller than me. So, because just in video angle, he just looks smaller. But no. But yeah, it was a fun time. So yeah, I also, one thing I want to complain about this: the vampire teeth in not Barlow, but everybody else is way too clean looking, way too white, way too fake looking.
Fair.
Yes.
They don't match it to the actual actors like
Yeah, the
coloration of
tooth
their
color.
teeth.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah,
using the
it's
coloration grades.
bad.
In the original miniseries, the teeth are, they're big, they're whatever, but like they look worn in, they look lived in. The gums are black, like, you know what I mean? They have like this, like this is coming out of a dead person. These they just kind of look like, hey, I'm going to a Halloween party and I'm
Yeah,
being a
yeah.
vampire.
Here, let me put these in. I got it.
Let me put my glowing contacts in.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things I'm taught when I was taught how to mold teeth and create vampire teeth and stuff. You have to match the coloration when you're applying it to the actor's teeth. It just makes it look better instead of just two very clean fangs just sitting there.
Yeah, that's why you have color grade strips.
They went to the bowling alley and
teeth
put a quarter in the machine
The
and got
fake
those.
thing.
Yeah.
I thought this church scene was stupid too. No offense to anybody that liked it. I thought at least we would get a very profound monologue, at least from Father Calhoun here. We kind of got a half-assed one a little bit. And again, there's no weight here. There's no weight of the danger that is enclosing on them.
Is this the one where he talks about the power of the church?
Yes. And how younger people would be believing in all this.
Yeah, it's a confused mess because it's like, wait, the young would what? And he's basically saying, be careful, like putting this out, because once it's like the church, once the wheels start grinding, then the power of the church comes in or whatever. And I was like, well, then hit the fucking button and let's start grinding them gears, man. Let's go. And nothing comes of it. And again, except homeboy is just like, nah, I got this.
Well, really, it should
Again,
be
like
like
in
in The
Dusk Till Dawn.
Exorcist. Oh, sorry.
Really,
it should be like in The Exorcist.
Why don't we?
Sorry.
Hold on. Wait, Enzo, go ahead. Go ahead first.
Yeah, I was saying, like, from Dusk Till Dawn, it's like, why aren't they all just thinking like this priest is like our most valuable asset right now? Like, why don't we all just like start blessing the water, Father? We need you. Like from Dusk Till Dawn, yeah.
Well, it's like everybody got a telegram that said that no, his faith is sketchy. You can't. Don't worry about him.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Go ahead, Sam.
I mean, his faith should get confirmed later. Like, oh my god, it's all true.
No, but I'm saying really what they were trying to convey here, and they did it better in The Exorcist, is when the mom goes to Father Damien and he goes, you need to go see a psychologist first. Like, the church is not going to support, like, it takes confirmation, I think, from like the bishop to actually do an exorcism.
It takes layers.
I can't do stuff like that. And then having Mark come in and go, screw this, I'm just coming to take your holy water. That would have been more effective, where he's like, hey, if this guy's not going to help, I don't have time for this, but instead it's this jumbled mess.
Yeah. And I think they're trying to convey that idea that the church is a, it's like a battleship. It turns slowly, but and you have to come with proof, and it has to go through the bureaucracy to get anything done. And that he is probably a poor proponent for that, because they know he's a bit sketch on his faith and he drinks a lot and all of that stuff. So he, if he's the one that goes to church leadership, they would be more skeptical about him than they would a younger, more passionate, belief. But none of that. I think they try to say that. I think that the dialogue is such shit that you just get, jumbled word mess.
Oh yeah, because even in this scene, he does this thing where you can tell like the actor's making a choice, and like he starts shaking his hands, and we get it. You're an alcoholic, like it didn't feel earned. Like it felt like, oh, I have dead space. They didn't write me anything else to do, so I'll do this.
Or the director's like, oh, to do that because you haven't had a drink or whatever, and he's like, no, okay, whatever. I'm gonna do whatever you say.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. There's no establishment. The only establishment that he's a drunk is that he gets locked up in the beginning. We don't see any drunken tyrant. We don't see how he affects the town. We don't even see how the town folk react to him when he's drunk either. So there's no development in there. And then you just get the shaky hand, and that's it. Like it's supposed to there's supposed to be meaning and impact. The one thing we skipped on it was Mark's first kill, which was remind me the character's name. Why can't I think right here?
Striker.
Thank you. Mark's first kill.
Oh yeah, the beat him to death one.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I can't see an 11-year-old overpowering an adult male like this. Even if he hits him in the face like this.
He sneaks up on him in the book, and that's another thing.
But again, he's
that
15 in the book.
Thing. What?
Yeah, that makes
he's
more
15 in the book.
He's 15 in the book, but he still sneaks up on like this supernatural character because he is strong in the book.
Right.
You know, like he can lift up people with one hand. That's crazy. You know, but another thing too that they keep kind of harkening on, and I thought it didn't even pay off, and it's one of the last lines in the film is the Houdini thing, which you know they that is a part in the book. He does escape from being bound because he knows all these things, but it's like we could have just assumed, you know, like you could have said it one time, but then at the very end of the movie, he's like, Ben Mears looks at Mark and goes, "The greatest magician of all time. You know, we're just gonna do whatever." And I was like, he didn't even tell that shit to you. He told that shit to Ralphie, and you know, it was like you weren't there for that conversation. It was like, so you're doing a callback to a line you didn't hear.
It's okay. The plot told me. You know, I've been hanging out with the plot quite a bit. If you haven't noticed.
Well, in the book, in the original movie, Mark feels the consequences of his actions and stuff. Here, he doesn't. Like he literally.
What's because he's a sociopath
man.
here?
Well,
yeah, and there's no emotion.
Killed.
11, even if he killed as an 11-year-old, you would think he would be crying. He would be shaken. No, he just walks into the church like a G and just like, I just need to get some holy water. I gotta go kill me some more vampires. And this is not even a vampire. This is a human being still.
Yeah,
kind of halfly.
Well,
yeah,
Mark is very affected by these things in the book. Like so much so that after the kitchen scene happens, he can't go back into his house. Like, you know,
yeah, and that shows up in the '79 version as well. I mean, the kid that plays Mark is very much emotionally affected by this. Unfortunately, what we have here is Robo Mark.
Yeah. Marcus.
And also, I don't like this. This is the only other scene we get with the Marston house. I was like, okay, cool. We're going back to the Marston house. We're gonna get the creepy house with the shadows and the play on it. Nope, we just get this for like maybe 5-10 minutes and that's it. And we don't even end up here.
Well, and they do this thing where they subvert because they like this happened in every other version. This is it should have been the other scene, but this is where Susan normally gets taken. And they said, you know, now your circle will go smaller. For some reason, they decided to do it with Matt, which it doesn't make sense because now the person who was doing all, like we covered before, this person who was supposed to be doing all this research and wants to look into, you know, Hubie Marston and Barlow and Stryker, you just killed him off. And then, but you have Susan standing around basically doing nothing for the rest of the movie. I mean, just kind of like wait, so much so that you have to have a jump scare to get her turned. It was just clumsily done.
Sammy, we weren't going to do any damsel in distress. I mean, she was supposed to be kidnapped. That's one of the reasons why Ben goes back to the Marston house. That's why he has a hesitation in the 79 version too, because he has all the trauma from it.
Yes.
But here we have to have girl boss Susan. So she has to be just bitten. Which is
what she's not,
because in the original in the book, I love the relationship she has with Ben. Like there's an impact and it's more trauma on top of it for Ben. Instead, she's just kind of thrown to the side at the ending.
But so is everybody else.
She doesn't go out like a damsel in distress.
No,
you know, she goes out fighting, and she goes out. If she didn't do what she did, Mark would be dead too. Yep. So it's like, you can still be a hero and die, like, you know. So people just miss the mark on these things. Like she sacrificed herself in the book for Mark, you know.
And even in the movie, it's even more impactful. The 79 version.
Yeah, 79 again. Yeah, does a much, because again, it was written as if they were writing people instead of whatever the hell they're doing here. But one thing I will say is the attack on Matt by Barlow, that is really well done.
Yes.
where you have turn the lights on.
Yes.
Right. And he turns the lights on and Barlow essentially like bites the bulb and then immediately is on him. And all you do is hear. Right. Because
He,
again, here's a
he
quick
crushes
flash,
his hand.
crush, bang, and then he's on him. But you don't see it. You just saw the movement. You know what's happening and you hear it. And that is far more effective than a lot of the, oh, look, we're going to do spoopy shot, and it's not. It's crap.
Another thing I really hate about this movie is, you get like Jay said, you got all this great car wrangling and set and costumes, but then they just slap this shitty computer animated sky on everything.
Yes.
Why is everything all computer animated in the sky every time? We couldn't get a pretty enough sunset.
Yeah. Because they don't know how to shoot proper light. Anyway,
Fly safe.
this is an interesting scene where she's going after the sheriff, and then all of a sudden the whole town knows there's vampires in the town.
Yeah.
Because we skipped the slow, progression of fear in this town or whatever. It's like, oh my God, there's vampires. Oop, lock the doors. Here we go.
No, like in the original,
in the book, Parson Gillespie doesn't know.
Right.
He just says, I don't know what this is, but I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Also in the original, there's that one guy who beats up your main character. He goes to jail. When your main character, the officer,
Lloyd
he goes
Tibbets.
to
Lloyd Tibbets.
And he gets got in a jail cell by Mr. Barlow. That's like the big reveal of Mr. Barlow in the first miniseries.
Yes.
Yeah, again, like stuff like that is like, we had a person in custody dying. Like this is spreading,
Yes.
None of that's in this.
In the 79 version, they take it more serious as a town should be taking it. Like, holy shit, we've got people dying. We've got like mysterious things happening. We should be, on tension, and we should all be looking out for each other. Here, it's like, oh yeah, the town knew there was vampires. They bailed.
Yeah, the town in this is a
material.
setting, right? The town in this hunk of shit is just a setting. In the book and in the 79 version, the town is a character itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't vary from the source material too much in even in the 2007 and in the 79. Like they might have it in different time periods and different things like that. But the characters, they're not playing these games where it was like, oh, you've seen that before. I know better.
Right.
They present the story as is. And it's just a better way to do things because like there's a reason that people keep coming back to this story.
Sorry, guys.
What are we talking about? We got
we always make time for puppies.
Him a good
Hi.
boy. Him love him, Dad.
Hi. Okay. All right, Wally.
Yeah.
Go play. Sorry,
Love
guys.
him, Dad.
I gotta take to my son. I'm sorry, guys. Give me a second.
No.
You're fine, man. You're fine.
Man, I'd rather watch you play with the dog than watch this thing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, look at her face.
Well, that's because I'm sure what she needs to do is T-pose.
Yeah. It's the emptying the bowels
The
face.
AI quit on her, and she just T-poses like a bad game when it goes glitch.
Yeah.
And in the original, it was more impactful because the father is basically sacrificing himself for Mark. He's like, please take me instead. Let the boy go.
Yes.
And he tells Mark to run. Here, he just tells Mark to run, and then there's just a waiver of his faith, and then he's gone.
Also,
Right.
Like,
when Barlow kills his parents, Barlow, like in the, he slams their heads together, and there's that great moment where like the kid leans over them. He's like, they're dead, father. He's killed them, and you're like, oh my God, this is bad.
Yeah. And also it was like, guess what? You didn't have to invite me in. He comes crashing through the window. He cuts the phone lines. Like, he realizes that the phone lines are cut. And then they go, oh my God, he found us. And then all of a sudden you get this black mass coming through the window, smashing their heads together. And then you get like one of the best, like Mexican standoffs between a priest and a vampire. The dialogue is just top notch, and instead they were just like, no, we'll just do what we did, walking out of the door and then having a guy not come back. That that's great. I was like, you could have spent the same amount of time actually respecting what you're
Doing
adapting
it correctly.
Yeah.
Well, it's also not just that.
more
It's just like he goes out the door and he disappears, and then we cut to the mom, and then Mr. Barlow's just like standing behind her, like, and it doesn't have that. Remember in The
It's not
Ring when she
impactful.
crawls out the TV, it's like it's not a jump scare, but it freaks you out because it's happening
Yeah.
slowly. And same thing with Mr. Barlow when he makes his big grand entrance, like it's coming.
Oh yeah, when he slowly rises up.
Right.
you
There's
know,
a
like-
there's a
shadow.
menacing nature to a thing that's like, I'm in no hurry. I will just
Right.
kick
Yeah.
your ass at any moment.
Jason
Right?
Voorhees.
Yeah.
But in the original, we see him in the jail scene, and then we don't really see Barlow until up to this point.
Right.
Right.
So it's
Because
it has-
again, they conserved him. Right.
Yeah.
Here
they
Again,
did
it's
that.
the idea of
Right.
Barlow.
this makeup, man, it makes me so.
Yeah, no,
I also
it's
didn't like his
pitiful.
voice. His voice was very
No.
like, "Oh, your faith is very bad." You know,
I'm
it's like,
Batman.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was like they had some crappy effect on him.
Yeah, and Spirit Halloween needs their mask back at 5 o'clock, so we got to get this shot done for Barlow.
I shouldn't be able to see your prosthetic lines.
I mean,
all
the
I'm
other
saying.
thing, like
Oh
I was
my
saying
God,
earlier,
it's
like I
dark.
like my vampires to be emaciated and skinny
Yes.
because it kind of showcases their eternal hunger. You know,
Yes.
they can never
Yeah.
satiate.
Yeah, that's what I said.
themselves, you know.
Homeboy's
Yeah,
been,
but
he
if you're
just
gonna
got
go
done
that
with Golden
route-
Corral and decided to show up here.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah,
gonna
he's
go
had
that
some
route, then go the debonair, suave, well dressed. You know,
I would
count.
like to see what this looks like under proper lighting instead of the blue teal we have with the filter.
I think
'Cause
it'll still
even
look
the
like
va-
shit.
Because even the vein work and some of the townsfolk, you'll see side vein views, those look really bad too, and they're like a deep teal blue as well. So I would
Mhm.
be interested to see what it looks like under proper lighting, because like this looks like they bought an actual mask and just like it just
Yeah, Spirit Halloween.
and
And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because there are other scenes where you can tell like the practical effects on it, they're good, or the some of the effects where they're sucking people out, right? Like when the baha, I've got my crucifix and it like blows a guy back, right, with force or whatever. You see all that. The CG, on the other hand, is not good at all, and the Barlow effects are pretty shit.
Yeah.
So
Even-
way to miss on the biggest thing, right? Which is probably where the director had most of his hand. Oh, here we go.
I know. This tree.
This is so unearned. Like you saw one of these characters get turned. You know, you didn't see anybody else. So you realize that there's a bunch of vampires. You don't know where they came from. You know, they could have just came from out of town.
How did
they
these
could have been.
vampires did not catch this kid too? There's multiple of them. Vampires are supposed to be super speed. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. It
That's
doesn't
that's
make
what I
sense
said.
at
The
all.
power scheme's all over the place. Sometimes they're supernatural and they can fly around, and then other times you can take 4 of them on, with your bare hands. So like, make up your mind. I mean, honestly, did you not sit down and talk about this
No.
before you?
No,
I was like,
I
and
wrote-
either would work.
Yeah, I
Either
wrote my
would
screenplay in a fever dream. Well, I mean, dude, you've got like 5 vampires on top of a house just staring at you, and she just puts her Valiant in first gear with the crappy slant 6 and puts away. And it was like, these things could have just torn the car apart. What are we doing?
Yeah, they
And
could
we're-
have literally ripped
Just
the door
Keep
off
driving,
and taken
act
you
like
out.
you don't see it.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
He was like, roll them up.
We're about 20 minutes left in the movie. Also, another scene in this. So Susan gets bit. She can't be saved. She gets turned. She runs out. Ben stupidly runs after her. And then when he runs back and she throws the stake at him, and then he's
Yeah.
lifted up the air and kills the vampire, lands. I'm like, what is going on here?
Oh, it was yes, it was just Start
Is this
yakety
Buffy the
sacks now.
Vampire
Here we go.
like, what's going on? Ugh.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty creepy, the scene where he turned around and they're all like hunched over in different buildings and like predatory watching him. I thought that scene was pretty good. But
that's
it didn't
why
pay
they
off
put it in the
to me.
preview.
Yeah. It doesn't pay off very well. So he has to go kill Barlow, and we get a daylight scene where this kid just breaks into this thing and finds Danny and kills him. Again, a vampire overtaking an 11-year-old. Who knows he's there, by the way. It's not like this kid creeps up on Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean
what
the
was
good news
whole
is that
point of the blood
Well,
drops. Where did that pay off?
Danny just commits suicide because he just runs chest first into the stake and he's dead. Mark did nothing to actually get that kill. That was all Danny's work.
Yeah, and then he goes, "I promised," and was like, "You promised what?" And also, the rules are are so inconsistent. This feels awfully bright for a vampire just to be lurking out in the back room. I understand if they're not in direct sunlight, they're not burning up. It was like, no, I mean the sun's got to be somewhat near setting, or it made sense when he got Matt Burke in the cellar because it was pitch black down there. You know what I mean? Like this is obviously in the daytime. This was just kind of dim. It wasn't.
He put on some sunscreen. It was fine.
Yeah. Oh, and then here you go. Just Mark being a total robot again, where it was like, what are you doing? Nothing. Just how's your day going?
Yeah, with blood all over the front of his shirt.
Yeah.
Just a normal Tuesday.
Just killing vampires. Yep. Just saying. I thought this was a stupid writing mistake of bringing us back to the drive-in. I thought this because like, okay, I was with it. I was like, okay, because I'm sure they don't have like coffin. It's a small town, so I'm sure they don't have a plentiful of coffins for all these people. So using the trunk of the car, I get it. But the fact that Barlow is in this like hitch wagon there too, that just instead of in the house didn't make sense to me.
I thought we were going to get an extra scene and then go back to the house after this drive-in debacle. I was like, okay, well, that's fine.
Right. Or like they burn some houses because they think that people are there, or they're trying to eliminate the places that they are. And so they often, but this was just, as soon as I saw this, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
It was pretty dumb. And that was so creepy in the original when you find out like Mr. Barlow's coffin is like under this basement surrounded by all these like unconscious townspeople who are like, because I like this idea that when during the day, it's not just that sunlight kills them. It's also that, vampires literally are not active during the day. Right. They're like in a coma,
Mm-hmm.
I think of it like as a dead body, and at night it like reanimates,
Right. It's the idea of like the light and the dark, right? That the light is that shuts when it's out, they are not allowed to do anything, right? Because light. Yeah. And then the dark comes and here you go.
Well, and
they were experimenting by burning the house down during the day.
Right.
Okay.
They were experimenting in the book, and this also happened in I Am Legend, where like they just pull out a vampire like totally into the sun, and the only thing it does is kind of like animate real quick and crawl itself back into the shadows and then unanimate. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're mystical creatures for all intents and purposes. They are dead in the day.
Right.
Like
that. Enzo, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just saying, like, the best way to take care of him is just go to their house at noon, light the place on fire.
Right.
And there you go. Seems pretty.
Or light all those cars. I don't know why they just didn't go around and open all the trunks of the cars.
But also, I don't know why Susan didn't burst into flames as soon as you open the trunk.
Yeah, right. I understand there's a shadow of the screen, but that doesn't mean there's not actual sunlight there. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Oh, no, apparently if there are clouds in the sky, they could just go prancing down the street. It's fine.
Yeah,
like when the sun goes behind the shade of the projector, they all come out. It's like, why don't we wait a couple hours till the sun is actually set? Just because,
No.
And the thing is, it's so much better. Instead of doing this stupid drive-in thing, is like one of the big twists. I can't remember if they did it in the actual in the 79, but they go to the Marston house. They're looking for Barlow's coffin, and then they realize that they had relocated.
Right.
And then now they're going building to building to like much more tense to realize that you have to check an entire town before sundown than to go like, hey.
Yeah, now you have a real time. Yeah, you have a real clock running, right?
Where could all the cars be?
No. They're probably out in the woods at Necking Mountain. They're making out.
This was the stupidest reveal that this coffin is sitting in this hitch. I'm like, you're the master of this town. You should be you shouldn't. Okay, I maybe understand the thought process of these are his like vampirelings, like his children, so he has to be close to them, similar to the 79 where you have them like sleeping around the coffin and stuff. But this makes no sense to me. Logistically, like, why would you leave yourself open to that, knowing that you all have humans that are looking for you on top of it. Like it's
I guess
pretty
maybe
obvious.
hubris. You know,
I guess.
maybe he just thought I got everybody. It's down to like these 3 people, which like and it's really not. It shouldn't be. People are at this point are either just like packing up, getting the hell out of Dodge, like, you know, or just people should know that the whole town has like succumbed to vampires. Like that's part of the mystery of it. And you know, they make this big thing where there's like news articles where like these towns just seem to like shrivel up and blow away, you know, like Enzo was saying, like it's very much an allegory for the death of the small town. And then you're gonna put like your master in prominence, you know, like not in a place of prominence or well protected. You're just gonna get this like run of the mill.
The movie shot from the beginning. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's how he got delivered to the Marston house to begin with. But again, this decision totally undercuts the power of the Marston house, the reason that they chose the house in the first fucking place. This is the guy that wrote this did not understand what he was writing, did not understand the source material, and is not good at writing. But thank God that that Robo Mark decides to drive a car and knock the screen down.
How did the screen not hit the woman with the gun too? Susan's mom as well. She's in here like shooting people. She's over by that point. I think she's over closer to where Barlow is.
It's okay because Mark runs her over totally callously with his third victim, second human.
Right,
kills with no problem whatsoever.
No remorse, nothing.
But also, if I was a master vampire, I would want to hang out in a cold, dark, dank pit, not a hot trailer. You know, where I'm all sweaty and stuff and uncomfortable. Like, it just seems like a nightmare.
I'm not going to the drive-in. I'm looking for a mine.
Right, a cave.
Yes, you got to do some work to get the sun on me, not just open my coffin.
Welcome back, Hugo.
I swear I'm going to have beef. I have beef with StreamYards now forever. Sorry, guys.
We all do now because the price increase is pretty bad.
StreamYards is shit.
Sorry.
Why didn't Susan turn fire like when he knocked it down? Where was she hiding? How did she come back?
She got closed up in the trunk again.
Yeah. She went and got a hot dog, corn dog, and some popcorn.
It doesn't make sense. The flow of this doesn't make sense. So that's a pretty good shot. I'll give him that. That's a pretty good shot. Whoever.
No, I'll tell you
projector
I'll
going.
tell you exactly why. They needed someone to go in so you could get the power back on, so you can get the sound effects and the lights. And the only way they could do that is have someone crash into the fuse box.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, the plot is running the show here.
Yes. Well, and again, I mean, there's plenty of things where I go, man, you know, whoever DP or cinematographer was, they knew what they were doing. And then somebody in post decides to shit on things. And oh my God, this stupidity.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, there's about 5 minutes left in this. How are they going to kill Barlow? Because it's very impactful in the 79 version because it leads to what Mark and Ben have to do. Like they go on the run. They're always being chased by vampires. It plays. Here I'm like, seriously? This guy's like centuries old and they're able just to kill him by stabbing him through the back of the head.
Well, he slipped on a banana peel, and it was fine.
And he can't sense that Ben is behind him on top of it too.
Also, he can't just throw this fucking screen and tear it to pieces and get Mark and have a feast.
They wanted that shot. That's why.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. And again, it misses the point. So at the end of every other series I've seen, they have to go back to Salem's Lot because even though they took care of Barlow, the town is still overrun with vampires.
Yes.
So that's what makes the ending so bleak and so hopeless is we got the major bad guy. Because like in a lot of like vampire stories like this,
you get the big bad and everybody else is free.
Everybody turns back.
Right. Yeah, that ain't happening here.
Get that here.
No, instead what you do is just knock down the drive-in and then everybody explodes.
But what also is terrible is like, you know, the idea I've always said, like you fight a vampire during the day when he's asleep. That's what happens in the books and the movies. You open the coffin, you put the stake in his heart. That's the only way. Once he's awake, it's like fighting a shark in the water.
Right.
You got to fight a shark on land.
true.
He's
Yeah.
obviously
By the
dead
way-
too.
oh,
so
sorry.
he's
Yeah,
got
during
super
you,
strength on
it's
top of
again,
it.
it's this balance of the vampire is trying to find a place to hide during the day that it can't be attacked, and the vampire hunters have to do the same thing at night. Right. Basically, it was like, I need a bank vault,
Bank.
and I'm going to be
Yes.
sleeping in there tonight.
By
Right,
the way,
and
that's a sunset in world history.
Yo.
I've always said vampires are very, very powerful if they have power over you. But once you realize how to destroy them, they can be very weak. But if you're telling me that you could just take this master vampire in the night with just like staking him in the head and the heart, like no problem, like that, you're nerfing the vampire. You're making it seem that much more weak. You know, it's a dainty, fragile creature.
Right.
Just obviously
That's
having
inconsistent.
sunlight's a big Achilles heel.
I have a question for Ego, because Ego, you're the only one on the panel who hasn't seen the original, or I don't think you've read the book either, right?
Neither.
What did you think of the ending? Did it pay off for you for the story?
It didn't. I was trying to figure out how they were supposed to kill him. I thought there'd be some kind of grand like reveal that, something that they looked at or revealed, like some holy water. And so him just getting stabbed through the head didn't make sense. Like I thought he was gonna. I was like, okay, so he's stabbed in the head. Is he gonna turn into like butterflies, a bat? Is it gonna turn to dust, ash? No. Okay, your budget went with whatever you were doing before. Okay, so he's just dead. Okay, like because if it were me, like if I killed what I would consider Dracula, I'm cutting his head off. I'm putting it in a box. Like I'm carrying it around with me.
I also
Or
want to see
something,
him
take
like
out the heart.
explode or something, when he's dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something. He's just there in a lump, and they just get away. And I'm like, okay, so that's what you're doing. You're just, again, when you race switch, we have to ask questions. And the thing was, Sammy did this when I was joking around with him. I was like, hey, don't you have kids? He's like, no, I just got a black kid, Tyrone. I was like, I flashed back to that when I had the joke with Sammy about this with me and my wife. And I'm like, you got to explain, where'd you pick up Marcus? Like, oh, I'm Ben. This is Marcus. So, okay, Marcus. Okay, you from the same town? Okay, cool. Ben, can I talk to you for a second? Like, hey, where'd you find him?
And you notice that Marcus is underage. What the hell's going on here?
Right, Marcus is now 11. It makes it even weirder. You can't say, oh, this is my Uncle Ben or this is my older brother Ben, because now we really have questions. And so I just, the Houdini thing, that was weird. It's just that it gave me more questions than I wanted to ask myself. But again, it's from the minute they had the race swap of Ben, and I took into account, it's like, this isn't going to end well for me once the movie's over, because now I have way too many questions. That's all.
Yeah, in the original, Ben to me comes off more like a pseudo father figure for Mark over time, or an older brother, and then it makes sense for them to go on the run together. Gotcha. Regardless if the kid was black or white, it's just the established relationship that they have that forms over time, both in the book and in the miniseries.
And you have Mark, who's lost his parents, right? So
and that's
and they went through the war together,
right?
And I get that. It's just that if you wanted to do that, then it would have been a better to be a modern twist, because now you're both orphans, and it kind of makes sense. Yes. It's just when you put something in the 70s and you flip things, it makes it confusing to the audience. All I did, honestly, all this movie did was make me appreciate Late Night with the Devil that much more. Because in the 70s, it makes sense. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's what I thought about it. Yeah.
Well, this suffers from not
I got to jump into Roman's show.
Oh, all right. Sammy, plug yourself. Where are you going?
I'm
Where are you?
Sammy 3P. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube, and you can find me on everybody else's stream. Turn around. I'll be there.
See you later, Sammy. Everybody's links will be in the description below. Please go follow everybody. They're awesome content creators. Bye, Sammy.
I'll see you in about 40 minutes, Sammy.
Yeah.
But I think that's what was missing here, because even if, and again, I think that they were going with the point of view of writing this from Mark's point of view and plushing it out. Mark and Ben's relationship is still very prominent in the books and the other series. Yes. There's a reason why they go up against Barlow together, because they have that connection. They're both orphans. Mark has somebody to look up to. Where here, Ben and Mark don't really spend a lot of time together, so there's not really an established relationship there. They're just like, okay, we're just survivors. I guess we'll just hang out with each other.
I mean, let's be clear. Mark don't need nobody.
That's true.
I mean, he kill everybody.
Marcus is Blade.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's who it is. Blade. We want the prequel to Blade. There
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah. We got Mark.
The CGI on his face looks so horrendous.
Oh, so bad.
And like,
Yeah, and like again, when the vampire doesn't explode or light up on fire, you're destroying the evidence. So when the fact that you have a vampire corpse left behind, you know, it's like it's gonna
have it emaciate, turn to dust, right? There's something that shit needs to go. Otherwise, I got a whole lot of bodies I got to deal with right now.
It's important vampires disappear when they die. Otherwise, we all would all know vampires exist.
It just my recommendation for everybody is go back and watch the 1979 version or the 2004, I think it is.
Yeah, that was better.
Version.
That was better, honestly.
Yeah.
The TNT one.
and just stick to that, because this, I can see why now they weren't going to do a theatric release of this.
Yeah,
because like it would do horrendous in the box office.
It's because
People
this
would
was shit.
Yes. Yeah. This was just
kudos to the
awful.
producers that were like, no, we're not. Yeah,
Not a player. That ain't working.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not it.
But again,
alright.
look at the. I mean, when every shot that we saw, right? All the cars are correct. All of the sets are correct. The upholstery on and the style of furniture, the curtains, the little tchotchkes that are sitting on desks and on knick-knack curios, the bar, everything is period correct or whatever. I even checked the titles for the drive-in to see when those movies actually came out. It was 1975. There is nothing in there that is newer than 75, right? I was looking, because I know all the cars, and I was looking, I was like, okay, that's a 73, that's a whatever, because they don't announce like what year it is when you first roll in, right? And so I'm kind of getting my bearings about, okay, where are we at based on cars and some other stuff, right? And the newest thing in this movie is the movies that are listed on the drive-in at 75. So again, hats off to the crew that worked
Production design.
this.
Yep.
They killed this. There are plenty of shots where either DP or cinematographer was kind of given, okay, you do your magic, and the lighting is great, and you get these great shadows and all of that, right? And then you can see when the director decides that he's going to insert himself. And the problem with this, and this is a piece of shit. It enrages me that so many people worked so hard and did all the right things. They were undermined by one ass clown, and his name is Gary Doberman.
All right, we're gonna go into final thoughts. And so, what would you give your final thoughts and rating on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would put it slightly below the TNT Rob Lowe version and slightly above the abysmal Return to Salem's Lot, which I do enjoy watching because it's so bad. But yeah, again, it's just like I said, it's baffling because the first one, 3 hours long, really slow pace. This one cuts off an hour, which I was excited for, and it's so rushed, and we're missing so much context, and we're just so. I mean, again, like a lot of my major criticisms are based off of comparing it to the original, but as far as like just from a blind eye perspective, like yeah, the pacing issues, the horrendous post color corrections for some of these scenes, yeah, a lot of this stuff just does not land, and a lot of the action, it's again, it's like too much action. Like I was saying earlier, like when you open the coffin and the kid's just laying there with his eyes open, that's way scarier than him coming out of the coffin and flying around and jumping around. Sometimes less is more. Especially when you're talking about spook and creep factor,
Yes, building tension.
Especially with vampires.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, again, just a huge disappointment. And it's sad because, like I said, Salem's Lot, I don't think we've yet to see an actual like home run adaptation of this book. Because the 70s one is great, but it's like I said, the pacing's poor, and it's not going to sell as well to the audiences today, the younger TikTok generation. So I'm hoping that one day we will get a real good Salem's Lot adaptation, probably maybe with the actual talking human appearing Mr. Barlow, which I wouldn't mind. being a fan of the classic Nosferatu hideous monster vampires. But overall, like, yeah, I would give it like a 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, mediocre. It has some moments here. It has some changes that I think sounded good, like, in pre-production, like, oh, this is going to be cool. But once you do it, it's like it's missing something big time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Ego, how about you? Last thoughts on it?
Ooh, as far as going like 1 ego, which is awful, to 5, which is absolute perfection. This is 2 egos. It's a 1, but because you were saying, Nadi, you invited me, it gets 2 based on you being a gracious host and bringing me in. It had nothing to do with the movie at all. It's just that's all you. So 2 egos for me.
2 egos. Goodwin, how about you?
This one I'm really torn because they're again the work of the crew and all that is impressive to see, and it's hard to just go this is all trash, because they very clear there was a very some, but the story itself, the pacing, the dialogue, the lack of development of character at all. I mean, this barely qualifies as story, and that's why you have movies. Movies exist to tell a story via moving pictures, and when you butt fumble the story this hard, I mean, I only because I'm giving credit to the hard work of the crew and the excellent job they did of setting it in 1975 and being dead nuts on. I'm giving it a 2 out of 10, and they are all of those 2 points. Right. Gary Dauberman gets a 0.
Yeah. I pretty much have the same sentiment as all of you. I would give it maybe a 3 out of 10. I would never revisit this again. I was very disappointed with the pacing of it. I didn't feel there was much scare to it, because vampires, to me, the allure of them is that they are creatures of shadow and they're manipulators, and there was supposed to be tension. There's no tension in any of it. They messed up the window scene. They didn't even try to reenact the look at me scene with the rocking chair.
No.
If they were going to write this from the perspective of Mark, they then should have expanded more on Mark's background and built that out a little bit more of why this kid is this way, other than just letting the audience just be like, oh yeah, this kid he killed 2 human beings. He just kills vampires. He's 11-year-old, can overpower things. It didn't make sense to me. And there was nobody that I was invested in. I was invested in nobody. I really didn't care if anybody died in this or not. So to me, it's a 3 out of 10. I recommend watching the 79 version or the Rob Lowe version more so. I actually more so recommend reading the book. The book has great tension buildup in this, and it's not as thick as most King books. I don't think so. Let me see.
Nadia, would you you said that you got Mark and he's 11 years old and he's killing everybody. Would you increase your rating by 1, realizing he's 11 3/4 years old?
Like the fault of like not having that relationship between Mark and Ben too, because if they are going to be the only survivors, there should be some kind of something to bring them together. Like there should be a reason why they're looking out for each other, and it's not even there. So I would definitely give this a 3 out of 10. I wouldn't recommend this to watch. Watch better vampire movies. Hell, John Carpenter's Vampires is better than this.
Innocent Blood.
And that says a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
just watch your walls. Your walls are more entertaining than this, and they're less frustrating.
Enzo, where can people find you?
Well, first, thanks for having me. Also, shout out to you for getting 500 subs a month in advance of your goal. That was pretty cool. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter, being pretty, generally inactive there, but also my YouTube channel, Stupenzo. We do a lot of funny movie commentaries. We watch a bunch of schlock and have fun laughing at it. It's a hoot. I love it.
And like I said, everybody's links will be in the description below. Ego, what about you? Where they can find you next?
You guys can find me on Twitter, Left Eye Ego, Instagram, Left Eye Ego 1, YouTube channel I've got up, Left Eye Ego. Pretty much anything Left Eye Ego related, I'm on there.
Very cool. And then Goodwin. What are
You
your
can
thoughts?
you can find me on Twitter, Emperor Goodwin. You can always find me on Fridays on B-Roll Stage, where we do the B-sides show, where we watch terrible movies that Adam Gray picks and then make fun of them. And you'll catch me in 30 minutes on Gooch's channel, where we'll be covering the wretched Zack Snyder Twilight of the Gods.
I still have to see
Oh.
it. I might.
I have so much hate today because I'm doing this and then moving over to Twilight of the Gods. Sammy and I pray for us. That's all I'm gonna say.
Do it to yourself.
As for myself, I will be back here tomorrow with a panel discussing from season 3, episode 2 at 8 p.m. Eastern. So please tune into that if you're watching along. Please, again, follow everybody on this panel. Sammy's links will also be in the description below. They're awesome content creators. You'll have a good time wherever they are. And until next time, everybody, stay spooky.
Subscribe to